the Knights and the Eels on Monday Night Football.
On Bundaberg Rum, Monday Night Football no less at Energy Australia Stadium back in Newcastle. We are the Blue and Red Army turning up as per usual, of course, for such a huge game between these two famous clubs. We'll see how the Newcastle Knights fare. Adam MacDougall on the run already. We'll see if he can score a couple of tries, as he did last week against the South Sydney Rabbitohs, right here in front of this big home crowd. Thanks, everybody, for joining us right here on Bundaberg Rum, Monday Night Football. As we said, Warren Smith along with Greg Alexander. Brandy, it's not do or die just yet, but it certainly smells like it's night for both these clubs, of course. Second meeting between them. They played back in round 3. It was Golden Point that night, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do a bit of overtime once again tonight.
It was, look, absolutely. The desperation of both clubs should ensure that we get a close one tonight. You talk about make or break. Look, it mightn't be that yet, but that's certainly the attitude that both clubs have got to take going into this match. What
about that first meeting between these two clubs back in round 3? An absolute thriller, of course, at Parramatta Stadium. A field goal by Jarrod Mullen. Of all people, Nathan Cayless replied for the Parramatta Eels to send us to Golden Point, and then Luke Burt kicked the winner in extra time.
Well, you've got to say that the Eels have been disappointing this season. They are coming off a win, but it wasn't a great win against the Cowboys, while for the Knights, they were super impressive against the Bunnies here at Energy Australia Stadium. They won't want to waste an opportunity in front of a big home crowd. The support at Newcastle has been fantastic. We'll see if that plays a big part.
And so much has happened for both these clubs since that meeting back in round 3, or I guess hasn't happened in the case of the Parramatta Eels this year, with high expectations on their prospects in 2008 not coming to fruition at the moment. Now there's been plenty of conjecture about the makeup of their team for tonight's game against the Knights. To get that latest news, here's our sideline eye, Andy Raymond.
Warren, it's an easy equation. Both of these sides are battling for final survival. The loser can start planning Mad Monday celebrations, because they won't be there come the business end of the season. It's two proud clubs. It's two desperate clubs. There are a host of changes. Let's take a look at the way the two sides take the field here on Monday Night Football. And we start with the Newcastle Knights. Kirk Gidley is fullback. The three-quarter liners, James McManus, Junior Sau, Adam MacDougall, Aku Uate. Now, there is one change here in the halves. Scotty Duro has been shuffled back to the interchange bench. Jarrod Mullen will partner Chris Houston. The Packers, Tolar, Buderus, White, Simpson, Patterson and Taya. The bench, Duro, Ciraldo, Fayoso and Tafua. The coach, of course, Brian Smith. Let's take a look at the visiting Parramatta Eels, and several changes here for you Eels fans. Luke Burt, Talima Tautai, Krisnan Inu and Jarrod Hayne. Then it is 21 in Joel Reddy, replacing Tony Williams, who has the flu. Christopher Keating is out with a sternum problem. In jersey number 23, we see the return of Feliti Mateo. Brett Finch is the halfback. The Packers, Cayless, Keating, Moi Hindmarsh. In 16, Joe Nullavow. And Chad Robinson is locking the scrum. The bench, Riddell, Cordoba, Lowry and Weller Haraki. Well, it's Coach Brian Smith's 500th game here tonight. Quite a milestone. A little bit later on in the year, this man, brother Tony Smith, will be in the coach's box for the England side in the World Cup. Now, let's talk about the brother first. A very proud night. Not many guys get to game 500.
Amazing, really. The longevity that he's shown is just incredible, and the influence that he's had on many coaches and many players, it's remarkable.
Enjoy your night. Thanks for taking time, and good luck come World Cup.
Thanks.
Tony Smith joining us here tonight. Over the course of the next hour, we'll speak to both captains and both coaches. In fact, Tony's brother Brian is right now standing by with Warren and Greg.
That he is, Andy. Thanks for that. Speaking to Tony Smith, let's turn our attention to his elder brother, who clocks up 500 games tonight. Brian, thanks for joining us so close to kick-off. Congratulations, 500 games first up. Do they give you a gold watch or a set of cufflinks or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Give me a bit of grief this week answering all the media questions, but I'm very appreciative of the way people have acknowledged it, and if I could, for anyone who's watching out there, or I should say everyone who's watching out there that might have helped me along the way here. I don't get the opportunity to see a lot of people anymore because I've moved on so many times, but I'd really like to say thanks to, especially my mum and dad will be sitting up there watching tonight in Maclean.
I know you don't want to make it about you, but when you've been doing something for so long, do you become relaxed, do you become more accustomed to what it's about, or do you still get as nervous and as excited before a game?
The truth is, I think probably a bit more relaxed about it all nowadays. Not quite so intense. I think I could have eaten a frozen chicken at some stages in the early part in the pre-game, but nowadays it's still intense, and I love the intensity of it. It's a great job.
Of course, some players returning tonight, Jarrod, Mullen and also Steve Simpson for what is a big game. First off, Jarrod Mullen. Where is he in his development? He's played 50 games now in the NRL. What's he still working on, I guess, to try and make that next step in his game?
I think concentration probably and communication, which I think most young halfbacks, so there's an old bloke there beside you who might be able to tell you a long time ago when running a team and being able to focus on all the things that a halfback has to do, coordinating a team, I think are the big issues. But he's a terrific young player and he's getting better and better at both half and 5'8", I think. And
he's got all the skills, hasn't he? He's got a terrific kicking game and a running game, a lot quicker than I think people give him credit for. Good pass to the ball, you'll need all that from him tonight.
You bet, yeah, we're really counting on it. We'll bring Scotty Duro into the game to help with some of that other stuff, hopefully after a bit of the heat's gone out of the game. But, you know, they're a great combination. Scotty and Jarrod love playing together, and Kurt is always putting his head in on that as well because he's got a free rein to do virtually anything he wants in attack.
From a couple of the younger blokes to, of course, one of the veterans in Adam MacDougall, who has around him, I guess, on either side of the field, some outside backs who are beginning their NRL careers, and he's in pretty good form going on what he showed last week against South Sydney, scoring a couple of tries.
Yeah, he told me early in the week, I'll be playing this week, Coach, and I didn't realise what he actually meant. He didn't mean he'd be out there, he was going to be really playing, and I thought Adam showed some real form, like at the very best. He was awesome carrying the ball last week, and he's in for an even bigger challenge tonight because Para have got so many big, strong, young outside backs themselves.
Did he say he was ready tonight too?
I'm just going to go and check, Brandy.
Has he been talking to his thighs at all? Anything like that? I mean, the stories do go around.
The stories are great. I'm not sure that Dukes didn't start most of those stories, but he's, Dukes has been great for our young fellas. He's set really good example. He's been a terrific trainer. You know, he's been a bit notorious for some other things in the early part of his career, but he's been nothing but a really good example to our young players.
You mentioned Kurt Gidley, who of course is back at fullback, but did a great job. He was remarkable, really, when he played at 9 and did the job as a fullback also. Great to get the captain back last week, and certainly inspirational to the rest of the team.
You bet, yeah. They make a magnificent difference to our team. We have got a very inexperienced crew as right across the board. I think we're still we have the least number of NRL games played, and having your best players who are so inspirational back in our team, and Simo joins them tonight, makes a big difference. We've still got Crossy and Wes Nagama and Jesse Royal and a couple of others to come back, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but this 17 have got to get the job done for us tonight.
It is the third last home game of Danny Buderus. Is there extra intensity in his work at the moment, knowing he's close to the end of his Newcastle Knights career?
With both Adam, MacDougall and who may be in the same boat, we're not just exactly sure where Dukes is at yet, but and with Bedsy, I think both of them are such emotional characters that they really don't want to start talking or thinking about that at this stage, because we've got the games are big that we're playing in and we've got 6 to go. You don't want to sort of spend all that emotional energy up at this point in the season.
Junior Sow, 7th game of his career, as we said, some young players in amongst Adam MacDougall and the likes there. He's playing, of course, with Aku or Ate on one side of the field, an inexperienced combination, no doubt, but boy, he's a strong, robust type. He is,
yeah. He's been a bit of a find for us this year. He came on spec and was a very good trainer early season and has improved as we've given him opportunities, as so many young players do in our game these days.
We'll see what happens tonight. A big game for not only that young man there, Junior Sow, but also yourself for the Newcastle Knights. Thanks again. We do appreciate your time. Good luck against the Parramatta Eels.
My pleasure.
Brian Smith joining us once again on our pre-game show right here on Bundaberg Rum Monday Night Football. We'll take it back to the studio right now before we return right here to Energy Australia Stadium. And of course, riding the desk again tonight are Ryan Phelan, Gary Belcher, Gary Freeman and Scotty Sattler.
Thanks very much, Woz. Good evening to you and good calling out there tonight at Energy Australia Stadium. Should be a big one. Welcome to you, boys. Great to have you along once again. Right. Badge, look, milestone games, we talk about it a lot with players and how they fire up for milestone games. What about coaches? Will they fire up for Hagues and Smith tonight?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the coaches will fire up. I don't know if the players will do it for them. But it is pretty. It's a very special occasion, isn't it, for Brian Smith? 500 games.
He's been a journeyman, hasn't he?
He has, and of course a lot of games in England as well. He coached over there. Michael Hagan, 200 games for such a young coach is a milestone as well. But let's remember, he's got 200 games and a premiership. I just wonder if Brian Smith would give up 300 of those games for a premiership, because it's the one thing that's missing from his cabinet. And I feel sorry for him. He's got his team so close on so many occasions with the Dragons and Parramatta, just can't quite get there.
And of course, most of those games for Hagan at this ground, going back to Newcastle tonight, what sort of reception do you think he'll get?
Well, he won a premiership in that first year, so look, I think he'd be a pretty popular bloke in Newcastle, wouldn't he? Played there and won a comp there. He's not the kind of guy you could boo. He's one of the all-time nice blokes, Hagan.
We talk about home ground advantages. I would have thought that Energy Australia Stadium, it's going to be a packed house tonight. Newcastle love their footy. It's a one-team town. They don't have the best of strike rates lately up there, though, the Knights.
No, they don't. It used to be a formidable ground, didn't it? When you played up there, there was always a full capacity. It's going to be close to again tonight. They're going to love their Monday night football. But it used to be a ground you used to go to, and the crowd itself used to play you out of the game. And it used to be very intimidating. 1 out of their last 5 they've won there, the Newcastle Knights. So, and with a coach like Michael Hagan going there, he just knows that the Parramatta Eels, they've got the real ability to play the crowd out of this game. They do it by playing boring football, complete their sets, and all of a sudden the crowd doesn't figure in any of the results. But it's amazing how the times have turned in regards to that oval once being an oval that no one really liked to go and play at, did they?
It's unloaded to Daniel Tolar, Kurt Gidley, fullback, hooker, whatever he is tonight, he's everything.
Another successful rugby league blood nut, Daniel Tolar, linking up with Kurt Gidley, who is Mr. Everywhere for the Knights despite wearing the number 1 on his back. Now, welcome back to Monday Night Football. We're going to head out to Energy Australia Stadium now, where Greg Alexander has been casting a closer eye over the Knights. Brandy, look at these stats for Kurt Gidley. Most tries for the Knights this season, number 1 in tackle bust in the comp, number 1 average run metres. He is a one-man wrecking ball.
Oh, look, he's been brilliant in the heart and soul of the Newcastle Knights this year. They've had blokes like Danny Buderus, who just came back from a month out. Danny Buderus has only played half a dozen games. Steve Simpson, who returns to tonight's game. Look, he's missed plenty of football. Ben Cross has missed a lot of football. So the experienced players in this Newcastle lineup have missed plenty of footy, but gee, Kurt Gidley has been the heart and soul of it, hasn't he? And as you said, Ryan, those numbers certainly mean plenty. I don't think there's another player that plays the game as physical, relentlessly like Kurt Gidley. He's filled in a dummy half, he's played fullback. He'll come up tonight and play a bit of first and second receiver to help Jarrod Mullen out, and that's certainly another big plus for the Newcastle Knights to get Mullen back, who missed last week's game after a hip injury. But Kurt Gidley, look, he's just a terrific player and playing so confident. Danny Buderus is another player I think that will be an absolute key tonight. Danny Buderus, only a couple of more home games for Danny Buderus left here, and I'm sure the Newcastle Knights will want to send him out in a positive way. Look, 20 points, both teams sitting on it, and is make or break. Look, you start to talk about mathematically it's possible after this if whichever side loses, but I think the side that wins can certainly go on to do something. Now, Danny Buderus, as I said, a key man. I caught up with the Newcastle skipper a little bit earlier and started by asking him just how important this win was.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction if you win this game for both teams, I guess. We're all about performance, I guess, and we're building on last week. And, if we somehow win tonight, and, it's a pretty healthy position we can put ourselves in.
Don't want to waste the opportunity too, because there'll be 20,000 plus. The support has been again great this year.
Yeah, exactly. They turned out numbers last week, and it was a real confidence booster for us to see them all there. And if we can repay them tonight with a good open style of footy, hopefully I'll turn up again next week.
Danny, you had a month off before you returned last week for that win against South Sydney. How's the body coming into the semi-finals?
Yeah, it's all right, Brandy. It's not great, but I'll get by hopefully. So everyone's carrying their nigglies at this time of the year.
The Eels haven't been at their best on many occasions this year, but certainly can make things difficult if you allow them.
Exactly. They're a team with immense talent. They probably haven't been at their best over the few weeks, but hopefully tonight's not the night when they all click. If they do, it's everyone knows what they can do.
All the best, Dan.
Thanks, Brandy. Ta.
Yeah, there he is, Danny Buderus. Look, as I said, key man for the Newcastle team tonight. Kurt Gidley along with that. But interesting to see that Chris Howson will start. Again, Brian Smith wanting to use 7 forwards to start the game. So Scotty Duro will come on and play some sort of part. But 7 forwards, and I think Newcastle just might be tough to beat tonight, boys.
Definitely hard to beat at Energy Australia tonight. Thanks, Brandy. Good calling to you tonight.
32 points to 12. They win by 20
to leapfrog a number of teams and assume 8th position from the West Tigers.
Soft options was what hurt Parramatta tonight, but a terrific win by the Newcastle team. Back-to-back, a good win against South Sydney last week here in front of a big crowd. Just over 16,000 have turned up to watch them. Well, do it pretty easy in the end against a Parramatta side that you can only say was disappointing. Insipid's another word for the Parramatta performance, 20-6 at half-time. And we're just beaten physically.
They were. The best hit they made all night was Brett Finch's tackle on the lunatic, who jumped on the field after 20 seconds after leaping the fence. It was all pretty much downhill from there for the Parramatta Eels. Let's go downstairs right now to Andy Raymond.
The night started with a pitch invader, finished with you with 4 points now. That's a different night.
It is, mate. I had to get one to get off the nudie run for Mad Monday, so it's a relief now. So, yeah, all good.
Good performance. Your season was on the line.
Yeah, it was. I think there's still a lot to work on. I think a little bit in defence there. We got a little bit patchy at times, and even in attack in that second half, we went away from our game plan a little bit. But all in all, it's a win, and it keeps us sort of up around the 8 there, which is good.
You dominated early, got out to a good lead. Did you take the foot off the pedal just a little bit?
Yeah, I think we started to go away from what we were doing well, I think. I think it was just sort of took our foot off a little bit there, but yeah, I know we were working on it this week and come again next week, yeah.
Nice little win for Brian Smith. Big night for him.
Yeah, it was. It's a great milestone, 500 games. You sort of never think of it. It's a bit sort of mind-blowing when you think about it, 20 years in the top grade. So, yeah, it's great to win for him, and yeah, as I said, it keeps us in the 8.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, Andy.
All right, well, let's now hear from Knights coach Brian Smith. He's beginning his post-match press conference, and he's joined by winger James McManus. I'm not sure whether he's got a brother.
Brian, firstly, I guess congratulations on the 500 and a win.
Thanks.
What's the most positive aspect coming out of the performance and the result?
Oh, the result was, you know, it's a results-oriented business, and we got what we were after tonight. A loss would have been a bit like if we'd have lost last week, and it'll be the same again next week. We just got to try to keep winning. But I'm impressed with the improvement that we're getting out of lots of our players. I still think we've got more in us as a team. But you know, the young players in our team that we've put in, Aku Uarte has been really grabbed his opportunities nicely. I think Junior Sau continues to develop. I thought Mark Tafua tonight played his best game for us. You know, and you know, Jimmy's a veteran now in our team with nearly 50 games in first grade, and he continues to do a solid job, you know, for us and keep finding improvement himself. So that bit's very pleasing.
It was two sides with a lot to play for, and it was a dominating performance. I mean, you started well. You may have plateaued a little, but you finished well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think we weren't totally dominant. I thought we lost our way a few times in the game, but we did enough to win. That's, you know, and enough to show that we're getting better. I think that'll encourage everybody in our club.
Win puts you 8th now because of the better. You would have been aware of the points differential that a win could put you as high as 8th, and it did.
Yeah, but you know, I was going to say I wish someone would ring the bell and say, well, you know, we're across the line, but I actually don't, because I'm really enjoying the ride at the moment and the challenge. You know, we may or may not be good enough to make it. We've got to prove that over the next weeks. If we're good enough, we will, and if we don't, we'll be glum.
This is a great line across, though, Brian, particularly to get that into 8th with 5 games to go.
I think that you know, I'm a bit cautious about that. I just think you can get too excited about, you know, there's absolutely no prize whatsoever for being in the 8 after 21 rounds.
You played well in Melbourne and you were beaten. You said that was probably one of the best performances the team had put in. How did tonight compare to that game?
Nowhere near it. Nowhere. No, we weren't even on the Richter scale in terms of particularly defensively, and considering the difference in quality of the opposition. You know, I think we played Souths were at the end of their run last week. They'd had a lot of good weeks, and they looked tired and couldn't fire up. And I didn't think Parra were a lot different at that. They probably tackled a lot better than Souths did, but you know, it was a memorable game for me because of the occasion, and it was nice for the club because, as you're pointing out, we're up there in the 8, but it won't go down in history as one of the exciting games as far as quality was concerned, I wouldn't have thought.
Can you sense momentum though, Brian, given the last 2 weeks?
No, I don't. I can sense it on terms of, we're in the 8, again, no prize for that, but not based on performance at the moment. We're a bit fragile, I think.
Brian, when things are changing even during a round and from day to day during a round like they did in this one, did you feel any need to talk to the players before this game about trying to ignore the equations and everything else?
No, I actually didn't talk to them at all today before the game. Actually, I had to go and say good day to a couple of them in the warm-up because I hadn't seen them. So they did a bit of work with Stoney and Rowan before the game, and they talk to themselves pretty much. They're getting a bit to that stage now where they don't need so much input from us.
James, is there sometimes a danger when you players play to the level of the opposition? I mean, you've got to stop doing that. I mean, because you nearly got over the try line 3 more times. You could have got over the try line. So is it?
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, we did have that lull, and I think our defence slackened off a bit. We got ahead, and we did slacken off a little bit. And you play sides like Melbourne and that, you can't get away with those sorts of things. So, we just there's plenty of enthusiasm in the sides, but we've got to have that mental toughness to grind out the whole win for the whole game.
Brian, how's Zed toe?
I'm not sure. Menzies being stitched up, which is why James is here. I don't think he's running a coup for the captaincy at this stage, but Zeb was. I think he's got something there with the medial on his knee. I don't know how bad it is. And Kurt had a bit of a cork, but I think the rest of them are okay.
Steve Simpson, your best tonight?
I said to the boys after the game, I thought Simo's performance, if you contrast other players in their team tonight and in other games where we've been brought players back after injury, and it was a credit to Simo just how dominant he was in tonight's game after being off. I think it's his 8th game for the season for us, and credit to our staff who work really hard it's hard keeping blokes focused and encouraged and enthused about doing the job when they don't play every weekend. And Simo is a credit to the whole lot of them. I thought the way he carried the ball tonight and smashed some blokes, awesome.
Ryan, I think you've come in before as the opposing coach when the same guy has got onto the field as he did in the first minute. What were you thinking when you saw it?
Oh, I missed that, sorry.
What were you thinking when the invader got on the field in the first minute and went straight to the tackle?
Yeah, I thought about the other times when I've been here with Para where that's happened. I don't know the guy. I don't understand what his thinking is or whatever. I'd applaud anybody who dares to be different and has a point, but I'm just not sure what the point is there. I don't know the man well enough to know that. I don't really want to know, but I think it's inappropriate anyway.
Dangerous for the players?
Potentially. I mean, I've never seen him actually do anything that's. If he had something in his hand or in his possession or whatever, then we might have all have something to worry about. But as far as I know, that's not the case.
You had a guitar.
I've seen some people do some really nasty things with guitar, but it's usually, when they sing more than the way they play, I guess.
What did the players think of it, Jimmy, when you were
I think Finchy landed one on him, I think, and that was the only dominant tackle he got for the game, I think. That's what he was saying. That's what he was yelling out for the game. So, it's a bit of a waste of time, really. I don't know what he's thinking.
Right, I agree with Brian saying that you guys aren't getting carried away. You're close, you're getting closer to the final.
Yeah, I think we've got to play it week by week, really. We've got to really focus and get ourselves up for every week now. And, if we make the top 8, if we're good enough, then, we'll all love it. We're all a young team, and I think getting in the finals will be a good experience for us.
You're not underselling the performance tonight, Brian?
Oh, you tell me. I don't know.
Well, critical game for Parramatta too. Their season's on the line. You've put 20 on them. You're not underselling the way your boys have played.
I'm only looking at it from my end. What did Hague say? Did he think they played well? I don't think they particularly played. I don't think they really did.
He thought you played well.
Yeah, well, he's in charge of his and I'm in charge of mine. We did do some swapsies there at one stage, but I'm happy where I am, and I gather he is too.
Congratulations to Brian Smith in his 500th NRL game. He is a winner, and it means that the Knights now go into the top 8. And isn't it an interesting scenario that we're now faced with, particularly the next round, crucial games?
5 games to go, and we still have 12 teams that can make the top 8. As far as I'm concerned, technically the Eels can, but I think even, listening to the Eels press conference, they know that they've probably run their race for the season. But you go down to the Warriors, down to team number 12. All those teams are on 22 points, as well as the Knights, who are in 8 spots. So it's a real fight. We've got some great games coming up this week. The Knights and Titans both on 22. The Raiders are playing against Penrith. They're on 23. Raiders 22. So, and a few other games. They're all going to have a big say. We're going to know even more next week if more teams drop out. The Warriors play the Broncos. That's a pretty exciting game as well, over there.
Either way that goes, it's good for the Warriors for the top 8, but it's good for the Broncos for the top 4. So very, very crucial games.
Absolutely, yeah, plenty of them.
We're going to take our final break here on Monday Night Football. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Rugby League now, and going into tonight's round 21 closer, both Newcastle and Parramatta were level pegging on the NRL ladder. The result's sure to keep one team's finals hopes alive and sink those of the loser.
Both sides desperately needing a win, seconds into the match, a distraction no one wanted.
Oh, we have an idiot on the field. Well, I don't believe this.
The serial Pest sent packing after copping a belting from Brett Finch. Fui Moi Moi also seeing stars. The Eels unable to set their defence. Newcastle in from the restart.
Good catch by Houston. He got across the line and put it down for a try.
Down by 6, Parramatta rattled, spoiled chances and foolish penalties. Newcastle marched the length of the field, spun it wide, and McManus was over. Moments later, on the back of a booming Mullen 40-20, the Knights once more went to the wings.
Buderus to MacDougall. They won't stop him.
Para's pain continued with Luke Burt hurt and off for the rest of the game. Tafua barged over for the home team's 4th. The Eels able to claw back some pride on the stroke of half-time.
Good ball for Reagan. No call from the officials. The pass was okay.
After the break, Gidley smashed, Haraki on report, Parramatta on the back foot. The Knights game to keep the ball alive on their last, rewarded by a bullocking run from Junior Sal. One more, all the Eels could manage, their top 8 hopes dimmed. Newcastle still well in the finals picture. Anthony Goodridge for Sports Tonight.
A successful 500th first grade game for Newcastle coach Brian Smith, a winner also in his 1, 2, 3 and 400th games.
It was a memorable game for me because of the occasion, and it was nice for the club because, as you're pointing out, we're up there in the 8, but it won't go down in history as one of the exciting games as far as quality was concerned, I wouldn't have thought.
They made one error in the first half and they made their second error 60 minutes into the game of footy, so I think you've got to give them some credit for how well they play.
Serial pest Peter Hoare has struck again. He's been charged with assault after upsetting another sporting event. His latest antics ending with a lifetime ban from all rugby league venues.
Just 20 seconds after kick-off, serial pest Peter Hoare storms the ground at last night's Parramatta Newcastle match.
Oh, we have an idiot on the field. Well, I don't believe this.
Wearing a Chaser 07 t-shirt, Hoare jumped onto Eels forward Fui Moi Moi before Eels halfback Brett Finch crash-tackled him.
Finchy landed one on him, I think, and that was the only dominant tackle he got for the game, I think.
But jokes aside, players and coaches say the stupid stunt was potentially dangerous.
If he had something in his hand or in his possession or whatever, then we might have all something to worry about.
But, he could have done anything to Footy. It's pretty scary.
Hoare is notorious for his high-profile pranks. In 1997, he ran onto the racing track during a Melbourne Cup race. He also interrupted Australia's crucial Socceroos World Cup qualifier against Iran. To Hoare, nothing is off limits. He even gate-crashed the funerals of in-excess singer Michael Hutchence and racing legend Tommy Smith. It's not the first time he's invaded a Newcastle match. Once he rode a tricycle carrying a cage full of kittens. Peter Hoare is already banned from Newcastle Knights matches. His latest offence, though, has incurred a harsher penalty, a life ban from all NRL matches. Knights officials say Hoare was refused entry to last night's game, but he just jumped the fence.
We simply don't want him at our games.
Catherine Kennedy, 10 News.
Across to MacDougall again, 360 degree, back up the middle goes MacDougall, he's over, MacDougall takes the ball off it, there's a foot race on, MacDougall by 2 metres, MacDougall's got 10 to go, MacDougall goes in.
He's got Adam MacDougall there. It must be a hat-trick for Adam MacDougall. There it is. Now a ball to MacDougall. He'll have visions of going all the way. He shows it. With him was Millard who misses the tackle. And the old dog, the mad dog, gets across the line. Don't know if he was howling quite like that, but it certainly was some sort of try. He's kept us entertained for nearly 13 years now. And Adam Mad Dog MacDougall joins us right here in the studio. Adam, you're playing like it's 1997 suddenly.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. So, yeah, it's fun at the moment. We're going pretty good as a side, so it's easy when you're winning.
Talking to Brian Smith before the game on Monday night up there, of course, on Monday Night Football, and he said, you came to him a couple of weeks ago before the Rabbitohs game, in fact, and said, I'm playing this week. And he said, well, I hope so, you're in the side. He said, no, you said, no, I'm on fire this week. I'm really, really playing this week. And you did.
Yeah, look, it was easy to get motivated, I suppose. As you get older, it's harder and harder to find things to motivate you when you've been around for a little while. Not playing rep football anymore and little things like that. It's easy to get up week in and week out. But playing against some old mates and, you know, obviously Russell Crowe would have been watching it somewhere in America, so the result was a good one for us.
Did you leave on bad terms, South?
Not with the players, no. Obviously, you know, I didn't think I left on bad terms, but the way that it washed up, it probably appeared that way. But, you know, I enjoyed my time there and had a great time, and still some of the best memories I've ever had in rugby league was when I was there at South Sydney.
Mate, I called this game, it was like the Mad Dog of old. You were just everywhere. Like, I know it's getting harder, but do you feel fresh? Do you feel young in the body, or like it's creeping up, or is it just your mind that's getting a bit harder to...
Yeah, no, physically this year it's probably the best I've nearly ever felt. So the training's getting easier and, you know, I suppose I've had some bad injuries in my career, so that's the reason why probably I'm feeling so good now physically. But mentally it's just finding challenges each week to, you know, get yourself up and sometimes you hope that the opposition player will give you a sledge or, you know, just something like that, or someone will run into you.
Yeah. Mate, come back to stage.
It's one of the things that helps you motivate each week, I suppose, is the leadership role. Like, you seem to be playing an important role in terms of leading the group of young guys, and there's a whole lot of young guys at the club forward towards a finals campaign.
Yeah, that's easy now because the season's getting towards the end and we're a real chance of making the finals, and there's a sense of urgency in the club, and it is satisfying seeing a lot of these young guys come through at the club too. So you train with them every day and you try and help them, and it's rewarding seeing their performances on the field.
What's the change? What's the big difference between this year and last year? A lot of criticism last year of the coach, and could you clean out a lot of dead wood now, but this year you just, like, everybody's happy. You can see that it's a happier environment, but it didn't look like an unhappy place. But then it turned ugly, and now Newcastle are back on the road. Yeah,
look, it was always going to be hard last year for Brian coming into the club and making some big changes. There's been a lot of people there for a long time, and it was never going to turn out to be happy making some of the decisions the club made and he made. So he put in a lot of new systems defensively and in attack, and it's probably taken us a long time to adjust to them. I know defensively last year we did struggle with our style of defence, and it was something foreign to nearly every single player at the club. They've been playing a different style of defence up until last year, and this year I think we're about 5th in the competition in our defence, and that's really the area I think that we've improved more so than any other.
And what's amazed me is how well you've gone, given the fact that most teams that perform well will have a steady half 5'8" combination, but this year almost every week you've got different types of combinations as half 5'8". Mullen's been fairly steady there, but he's been out for a while. You've had Bailey at halfback, Duro's been there, Gidley's played there. There's been a whole lot of different combinations, but you're still winning games.
Yeah, it's been a huge effort from everyone involved, and a lot of players have had to play out of position there this year, and you know, Kurt Gidley, you know, really hasn't really played like a fullback for us, which has really, in some ways, been a disadvantage for the side. Most teams have the fullbacks running around, running a lot of sweep lines, and Kurt's been playing out of his skin, having to do so much defence and so many other things in the game which take so much petrol out of his tank. But I also think, from our point of view as a team, having Danny Buderus back, it's no coincidence that we're all playing a lot better with him there.
Is he the fittest footballer you've played with, Kurt Gidley? I mean, he has a reputation as being, you know, if not the fittest player, the second fittest player in the NRL. He has to be right up there, obviously. He's the fittest player I've ever seen, and the most competitive just about, even up there with Andrew Johns. I think that's what made Joey such a great player, was how competitive he was. But you know, we play cricket before we play on away games and table tennis in the hotel, and Gids will cheat, he will lie, he'll do whatever he can just to make sure that he doesn't lose. And you know, that's what makes him such a great player. You know, he's so competitive, and you know, it's been pointed out many times, he's not the fastest player at the club, he's not the strongest, but come the 80th minute, he's running just as hard as he is in the first minute. So he's a super athlete.
You got some pretty good competitors up there. They talk about Danny Buderus. I mean, last couple of weeks you've really hit a purple patch, coincides with Danny Buderus coming back into the side, and you seem to have a great combination with him. Out of dummy half, he's coming across and putting on some beautiful balls for you. Yeah, look, you know, it's no secret that my return to form's coincided with Danny, and he's gave me some beautiful service out wide. And you know, when you don't have a specialist number 9 there, obviously the ball's ability to transfer laterally is a lot slower, so you don't get as much room to move out wide, and you don't get as many opportunities one-on-one. But with Danny there, you know, look at some of the balls here. You know, you can't ask for better service than that. And he's one of the best players I've ever got to play with, even probably, you know, nearly the best that's played the game in the last 10 years. You've been in some teams, of course, throughout a long career where it sometimes isn't happening. It isn't happening for the Eels at the moment. What was your reflections on the game and the way they played afterwards? Yeah, they felt like a team to me that are playing more so as individuals. I think, you know, when you're not going so well, I think everyone's confidence is down as a unit, and as a result, you're always scratching within yourself to find your own form. And as a result, maybe once or twice they could have maybe looked to pass the ball, that extra pass, rather than tuck it under their own arm, or maybe certain blokes come out in the defensive line themselves trying to pull off a big shot. So maybe the fact that, you know, they're down on confidence a little bit, they're not working as a unit, and it's not as cohesive, given the fact that everyone's searching for that little bit of confidence from within. I mean, it looks like that. It looks like they're playing the first game of the pre-season at the moment. Here we are in week 22 of the competition. There's something not gelling with Parramatta. I don't know what it is, but on paper they should be. I thought they'd be in the top 4, at least 5 or 6, but you know, like you played against them on the weekend, and for something, there's just something not clicking. I think if they're going to, before they find form, they've got to find some more aggression. They've got to find some more desire. I mean, well, they're not playing with each other. You know, like there's a lot of things going off field, but deep down, mate, they're just not having a go. Mate, we can talk about form and we can dodge around the subject. They're just not having a go for each other. It's simple as that. It sure looks like it at the moment. Somebody who never lacks from desire or aggression in the way he plays his game, and he's only played 8 games this year, is Steve Simpson. Had he been on deck for a full season, along with Ben Cross, the key off-season signing, you keep those 2 guys in the forward pack pretty much every week. I think you're probably at least 2 or 3 wins better than you are right now, and you're battling for a top 4 spot. Yeah, it's great playing with Simo. He's playing next to me, and just seeing the face of the opposition players when he gets back with that steam coming out of his ears is just an amazing thing to look at and watch. And sitting next to Gordon, we were speaking about before the show, just watching his battles with Gordon over the years, you know, they were enormous to watch. And you know, on the weekend, I just couldn't wipe the smile off my face watching Simo scattle blokes like tin pins. It was amazing, and he's a great player, and people probably don't realise how much pain he plays with each week. He's got, you know, arthritis in his knee, and it's bone on bone, and never hear him whinge, never hear him complain. He turns up every week and gives 110%. He's a true champion. Is he a guy that passes on his knowledge? Does he work with Patterson and Houston? Because there's a pretty good back row, and Steve Simpson, he's just so raw bone and tough. Does he hang around? Does he talk to the young guys, or is he a guy that just goes about his business and keeps on going down the same? No, he's very smart with his football, Simo, and even though, you know, when he gets on the field, he plays more of a real basic type rip and tear sort of game. He's a very intelligent guy, and he thinks a lot about his football, and he probably hasn't got the silky skills of someone like a Corey Patterson, but even off the field, he shares a lot, but on the field, you know, there's no better example than Steve Simpson. He's just tough as they come. Adam, we stick around and we'll go through some tips in a moment, see if you can give us your insights into these matchups this weekend. Yeah, I'll help everyone tipping comp this week. Just pick everyone that I don't pick. So. Yeah, same with me. Stick around, of course. We'll go through the tips for round 22 in just a moment. Don't forget, though, to grab a copy of Big League magazine.
Big League magazine is the complete guide to the game you love. It's got the best stories, the best photos and hard-hitting columnists who tell it like it is. Plus, your game day lift-out gives you lineups and stats for every major competition. And for the kids, there's Little League, a great little magazine bursting with puzzles, fun and excitement. Whether at the game or watching it on the box, don't forget your big league.
Okay, Super Saturday takes us across the ditch with the Broncos heading to Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland to take on the Warriors without, as we know, Justin Hodges suspended, if you missed the news earlier tonight, for 2 games for contrary conduct. The big news, though, for the Warriors is the return of Wade McKinnon, supposedly at the start of the season out with an ACL tear, but he's back for this game. We'll see if he plays 80 minutes or where, in fact, he starts the game. The Warriors are $2.10, the Broncos $1.70, and the line is only 2.5. How do you see this one going, Adam?
Yeah, I really like the Broncos in this one. I think they've hit a purple patch at the moment. Obviously losing Justin Hodges is a huge blow to their side. He adds a lot of strike out wide, and it's going to be interesting to see how Wade McKinnon comes back after his injury. I know that after being a player that's come back from an ACL, it takes you some time to find your feet, so it's going to be very interesting, but I can't go past the Broncos. They're on fire at the moment.
Now on Sunday, the Raiders host the Panthers at Canberra Stadium. All the action on Fox Sports 2. Josh Miller back for Canberra, and their favourites at home, $1.57 there. The Panthers $2.30. The line is 4.5. A bit of money for the Panthers with 4.5 start, but despite blowing some points in that second half against the Broncos last week, Adam, the Raiders back at home, they're a different team, aren't they?
Yeah, they're probably one of the hardest teams in the competition to play at home, and this is going to be a cracking game. I can't wait to watch this. They both play a really exciting style of football, and the interesting facet of this game is the fact that Matt Elliott's going back to Canberra, so he should have a lot of inside knowledge of the players down there, and a lot of internal conflict at the moment there with the Todd Carney stuff, but I still think Canberra at home, you just can't go past them. They're too good there, I think.
And on Monday night, our coverage will come from Skilled Park, where the Gold Coast Titans will take on Adam MacDougall and the Newcastle Knights. Our pre-game show, of course, from 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can see it on Fox Sports HD as well. You haven't seen the footy, Goody, till you've seen it in HD, have you? Now, the Titans, $2.65 outsiders. Little plug there. The Knights are $1.45, and it's 4.5 start. With minus 4.5, the Knights $1.70. Bit of money.
Yeah, look, the Titans, the wheels haven't fallen off, but the bolts have certainly come a little bit loose, and I just think the Knights, the way they're playing, like their last couple of performances, and Adam's sitting right beside me, so I'm going to have to go the Knights. I think that they're just playing great footy, and you're confident, and with Denny Buderus playing the way he is, and you talked about a competitor before, I think that there's a better competitor than him in the game, and the Knights will get up.
Should be a great atmosphere up there. Should be a big crowd again. I mean, the crowds have been fantastic at the new park. Should be terrific. And the playing surface, it's like a billiard table. It's a cliche, but it is. It's like a billiard table. You'll love running on it.
Yeah, there's a real excitement and buzz in the team at the moment. The older guys who haven't played, there before, well, no one's played there, but the older guys are really looking forward to it. It's something to give us a little bit of, excitement during the week, and we just can't wait there. Apparently, everyone loves playing there, and we're going to really go up there and hopefully come away with 2 points.
We're over time. Just very quickly, you've got a business on the side at the moment, doing a bit of work?
Yeah, treadmills. I've seen Gordy's put on a few pounds, and
pounds.
It's an epidemic in Australia at the moment, obesity. So, I'm involved in a company called GoFit, and they're in all Westfields in Australia, and you can go to www.gofit.com.
There you go.
Treadmills, if you've got bad knees, they're specially sprung loaded. They're the best treadmills in Australia. So. Junior would really do well.
I'm special for that.
Absolutely. Old bone on bone Pierce, they call it. Dukes, and
free one. Give me
that's
free one. I'll talk
not talking about his knees, either. We'll see you on Monday night. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. Had a great night. It's good to see Junior and good to see Gordy.
Always a pleasure, as always. And you boys, will hear from you and see you over the weekend as well in our coverage. That's the show. We'll see you on Super Saturday. Good night.
This has been a Fox Sports production.
And boys, another big game Monday night. The Titans and the Knights. The Knights are just, Monday night, Fatty, they were just absolutely terrific. And unfortunately for the Titans at the moment, still decimated by injuries, mate.
Well done to the Knights, and congratulations to Brian Smith, doing a great job with his 500th game. And well done, Brian. Good win. You know what? I've tipped the Titans because I know how desperate they are up there. They've got a few players back this week. Minicello's back for them. Ashley Harrison back in the 5/8 role. Josh Lewis is back in the halfback role. He's been down below a bit. He's come good. And they're just desperation, I think, can get them.
I reckon you're right. I reckon they are desperate, and I think they're
lose this week. They're out.
So you're tipping the Titans, too?
No, I'm not. But I'm telling you what, it's the first time we're going for 3 in a row for a couple of years. Want to give a few blokes a rap. I think a young bloke, Aku Uwate, who's been a young free junior coming through. He's a great young kid, and he hasn't He hasn't made a clean break yet, but it's going to happen real soon. He's very, very excited. And also, I thought Steve Simpson last week, after having such a long break, he was just unbelievable. So good on you, Simo.
Yeah. I think they'll actually push for probably 5th or 6th position, the Newcastle Knights. I can't see them losing too many more games between now and the end of the season.
I really enjoy the type of football they're playing. A lot of ad-lib, and they're running so hard at the line.
Fatty, I think it all comes down to how they've been run on the board.
Yeah.
And for that,
no doubt
ladies
about
and
that.
Paul Harrigan deserves a round of applause.
Thanks very little. Thank you. I'll tell you, just very quickly. We've also got Wes Naguama, Ben Cross, Wicks maybe back this week.
That's
also
enough.
Come on,
All
back.
right, excellent.
I just want to get a little bit
Robbie
more out,
Chew.
okay?
He's intoxicated.
It's all about
And I just want to mention...
All right, we'll take another break. Going to come back on the Footy Show. There's more to come.
Okay, let's cross back to Skill Park on the Gold Coast, where Knights coach Brian Smith, who's preparing for game number 501 as head coach, is standing by with Greg Alexander and Andy Raymond.
This Newcastle football side has developed into a pretty complete football side. It's an improving football side at the business end of the year. Their coach Brian Smith has been nice enough to join us, but you haven't put 3 together so far this year. Why are you confident tonight will be the night?
Oh, well, I'm not too confident about it. I think we're in for a big game. I can see why. I've never been to this stadium before. It's a great place, a great venue, and I'm expecting a tough game.
Brian, last week we said it could have been a make or break, and really things haven't changed. With sides that were sitting on 22 going to 24, it's another game where you just have to win.
Yeah, and they're not going to go away unless we fail the test. If we keep passing, we're going to stay in this sort of dogfight, I guess it is.
A couple of changes, subtle changes from the side that ran around against Parramatta last week.
Yeah, we left Aku Uate out this week. We think Aku's had a flight back to Fiji for his grandmother's funeral, and he's been up for a few weeks and done quite nicely. We haven't lost any confidence, but we think it's a good time to bring Cooper back, and we feel Matty Hilder might be a good way to reintroduce him after his injury by starting him up at lock tonight.
You have struggled with injuries throughout the season, like most clubs, Brian. The pack has at stages been very inexperienced, but I thought one of your senior men, Steve Simpson, only played 8 games so far this year. Gee, I thought last week he was outstanding.
Yeah, he sure was. Some of those runs of his were extremely damaging. He did some real damage to a number of their guys last week, and I think it was also about lifting our boys. I think our guys get a lot of confidence out of playing right next to Simo.
He's got the respect and he's got the authority, not only of his teammates but of the opponents.
Yeah, he's a scary character when he's in that frame of mind.
Just on last week too, and you spoke about some of the couple of changes, but Kirk Gidley been in doubt all week. Has he done much running? He did pick up a leg injury out of that game.
He did, Brandy, but it was only a slight cork on his hip. We'd already planned for him to have a few days off. We just think we'd like to keep him fresh. He's had a hell of a season and played a lot of intense footy, and we just wanted to refresh him. He trained last couple of days with us, no problem.
A lot of great athletes in the side, Brian, but a lot of genuine football players too. A lot of guys that can play pre-line football. Chris Houston's one of them. He's been used in a variety of positions for you.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good assessment of our team. We have got some strong blokes who can carry the footy, and they are athletic, but we've got a real core element of football in our side. Scotty Jarrod brings some more of that for us in the halfback role tonight, and Mullen and Gids and Bales and Bedsy, I should say. They're all footballers.
Round 22. If you had have looked into the Brian Smith crystal ball in round 1, how far different would have the side been in your mind back then?
Not much of that. My crystal ball ain't too good, Andy. Mate, we were just on about respect, and we weren't sure how good we were going to be, where we were going to be in the competition. But the boys have worked hard. I think everybody in our club's worked hard, and I think we've got some of that respect back. And now we find ourselves in a position where we can put Newcastle back where all Knights fans would like us to be anyway.
You mentioned Matty Hilder, and of course Zeb Taylor. He picked up an injury. You haven't started a game without Zeb Taylor this year, Brian. He's been fantastic, but Matt Hilder will bring similar attributes when he can play a bit of footy and get through a ton of work.
Yeah, that's spot on, mate, and that's pretty much why we put Matty in there straight away tonight. He's a fierce low defender. They've got some compact little players in their team, and we want to hit them hard and early tonight with those good low tackles that Matty Hilder's got in him.
When Matt Hilder is in this football side, it also gives you the luxury of a 6, 7, 9 four-man rotation. He adds more than just one interchange or one starting player.
He does. Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility for us there now, and you know, we like that. It sort of you try to cover all contingencies, and each of those guys is a good footballer in his own right.
Someone I wanted to bring up too, and your big men, you've struggled with big men for most of the season. They've spent plenty of times on the sidelines. Your front row are going well. Matt White and Daniel Tolar are doing a job, but Mark Tafua, gee, I thought he was good last week and the week before.
Yeah, Mark's a rugby convert. You know, he's not played a lot of rugby league as a kid, and been through a bit of a transition period, as you'd expect, over the last couple of years, and he's been reasonably patient, and it's paid off for him.
Brian, thanks for taking time to join us so close to kick-off. We wish you all the very best.
I hope all these raps you're still going to say all these nice things after the game. I hope we get the business done. I'm a bit wary about the mock you might put on us.
No mock here. Brian Smith joining us here pre-game. This is Bundaberg Rum Monday Night Football. We are live from Skilled Park on the Gold Coast. It is the Titans and the Knights.
Goes to Jarrod. Simpson on his outside, chasing a grubber. He won the race to the ball. They're just too keen. Great chase by Steve Simpson.
Yes, no shortage of desperation from Simpson last Monday night. The Knights will need plenty of that if they're to jostle for a playoff spot in these final rounds. Let's now cross back to Andy Raymond at Skilled Stadium. Andy, they'll need every ounce of that and plenty more to break a hoodoo tonight, because they haven't won up north on the Gold Coast, the Knights, since 1995.
Yeah, the Newcastle Knights warming up behind me. Now, some of the stats as far as teams not winning up here on the Gold Coast, they can be quite off-putting. This Titans model, for mine anyway, is completely different from the past models of the Gold Coast, what we've seen. The Knights have been out here for the best part of probably 7 minutes at the moment. They've just gone through some very heavy contact warm-up. Guys, and some of the bigger guys like Steve Simpson, Corey Patterson and the shoulder of Richard Fayoso, just warming up some of the three-quarter line members. You can see that going on at the moment. It's been a pretty physical but not overly vocal warm-up for the Newcastle Knights. Now, we saw them last Monday night at Energy Australia Stadium. There was a lot of talk. It was very upbeat. That's not the case tonight. It's not always a great indicator, but not a lot of communication tonight. Brian Smith, the head coach, is standing on the sideline. He really hasn't had a lot to do with the warm-up. His son Rowan is out on the field with a couple of trainers running through the paces. Now, it's a well-balanced side. They've got some underrated front rowers. Guys like Tolar and White have really stood up with Tafua and Fayoso in the absence of the big names. I guess Danny Wicks and Ben Cross, you could bracket those guys in there. They've got some wide running back rowers in Patterson, Houston, Serraldo, who isn't playing tonight. Now they've got an explosive three-quarter line, which is something they probably lacked in the early part of the season. It's a nice, well-balanced side. It's a side that hasn't won 3 games in a row all year. They come into this with back-to-back victories. I caught up with their captain earlier and asked Danny Buderus, why is he confident tonight will be the night?
Yeah, it's a confidence thing. We're growing as a team, but it's also a must-win. If we don't win this one, we're forced back there where we sit today. But we've got a chance to really shoot ourselves up the ladder tonight.
In your 2 wins over the last fortnight, what's been the biggest positive in your mind?
Yeah, it's been good wins. We've been pretty happy with that, but there's a lot of things in our game that we can improve on to really force a bit of an impression on this competition. But our defence needs to improve a bit, and hopefully our attitude in the defensive line tonight's a bit better.
When you look at the three-quarter line, it's probably not the three-quarter line you would have thought would have been there, at round number 1. Sau and Uarte certainly had some power and some youthful exuberance to this footy side.
Yeah, that's right. You got Cooper Vuna sort of waiting for his crack as well. So that's one thing Brian's done. He's created a squad mentality, I guess, where he can sit one bloke out who's really ready to step up and take the challenge. So our been sensational, but maybe Cooper Vuna will get a shot tonight.
Wish you all the best tonight, mate.
Thanks, Andy.
Hey. There was a late change in the makeup of the Newcastle side, an interesting one too, and we're as close as you possibly want to get to this Newcastle warm-up. Matt Hilder was originally named on the interchange bench. He's been moved into the lock forward position. Chris Houston will start from the bench. Now, what this does, this allows Coach Brian Smith, I guess, a greater freedom of interchange amongst his big men. Matt Hilder is a genuine 80-minute footballer. He'll top 40-plus tackles tonight, and that allows the big men to be rotated more freely and getting quality as opposed to quantity out of some of the bigger units.
All right, Andy, looking forward to this match tonight. Thanks for your thoughts on the Knights. Danny Buderus, he's very important. Interesting, you made a nice observation there, Gordy, too, wearing the right knee guard there tonight. We know that he's had a few problems with his knee in the past.
Yeah, look, I don't think it'll stop him. He's certainly a courageous player, and Danny Buderus, the form he's been in, it's not rare because he's been doing it for so long now, but you know, if the Titans are any chance tonight, they just got to control the ruck and not give him any opportunity to jump out of
I just wonder if maybe that's something to do with Matt Hilder starting in the starting side at lock, and if Buderus has any problems at all with his knee, then Hilder might slot in there to dummy half. Now, talking about Danny Buderus, we talk about a lot of other players there, but he is just vital to their chances throughout the whole season, every game that they play. He's such a wonderful player, and he set up 2 great tries from dummy half last week against the Eels. One of them was late. He threw a ball from dummy half to Adam MacDougall. And this one here, where he got out of dummy half, just seeing that they had numbers out wide and he was just desperate to get out there. You see from this point here, he pulls in those 3 defenders there from the Eels straight away. He's got across and got them, all of those guys committed. And he's also got Feliti Mateo here in 2 minds whether he's going to come in there or stay out on this man. I mean, he continues his run across field. He's got a couple of other players there, Mullen and Zeb Tyre, but this is the money ball. In fact, this is the money line that's been run here by Steve Simpson. He's hitting the hole there. Christian Inu, well, he just comes in, doesn't he? Hook, line and sinker.
Well, he has
Steve
to.
Simpson with the deadly decoy there, just absolutely perfect. And Buderus straight across the front and hits the right man there in Adam MacDougall. Tautai just a little bit late. Probably should have come flying in, but he'll learn from that. MacDougall has enough time to catch and pass. Probably wasn't the best catch and pass you're ever going to see, but it was a very good try. And Danny Buderus has that vision. The great players, and he is one of the great players of the modern era, certainly one of the best couple of hookers I've seen in the last 10 years.
He's been a top player for a long time, but I think when Joey Johns was there, we didn't appreciate just how much Danny Buderus added to Joey Johns' game because they work so well in tandem. But now that Johns is not there, he's gone up another level. He controls the attack. He's one of the few dummy halves in the competition that can control the game from dummy half rather than first receiver.
I'm sure Jarrod Mullen and Scott Duro when he's out there and Gidley when he's playing in half, so they appreciate the service they get from him. When they want it, and they want it out wide, he hits them on the chest every time.
Yeah. The Titans, though, have gone down tonight. Their 10th loss in their last 13 games. The Newcastle Knights move on to a 10-10 record. They're back level on the ledger, if you like, and back inside the top 8 as well. They've won 32 points to 12.
And they've looked good. That's 3 in a row, and that's the first time this year that they've done 3 in a row. They've scored over 100 points during that period of their 3 wins. Individually, there's some terrific performances. Danny Buderus again worried the Titans every time he took the ball. The short side, he owned the short side tonight, and they certainly had plenty of luck there. Their big men, Houston, Patterson, Simpson were strong. Their front rowers were good. Jarrod Mullen kicked the ball well. Kirk Gidley and the wingers were terrific, bringing it back. So a very good performance. The Titans have all the work to do next week when they take on the Cowboys to stay alive.
Well, for the second straight week, the Knights have won by a scoreline of 32 points to 12. We'll go downstairs right now to Andy.
Yeah, it was another polished performance from the Knights. First time 3 in a row this year.
Yeah, I know. First time in 2 years, I think. So, no, it's something that we're disappointed about, that's for sure. But it's nice to get off our back now.
You got the result. Are you happy with the performance?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 tries with the last 5 minutes before half-time and full-time were a bit disappointing, but we've strung 3 good wins together now, so it's good.
Mate, you had an interrupted week as far as training goes. How did it feel tonight?
Yeah, I felt all right. I mean, Smithy gave us a few days off and felt a bit more refreshed, so it was good.
Let's talk goal kicking tonight. We're not going to talk one of your highlights. What happened?
Oh, I think I was just tired at the time, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just something I've got to keep working on, and hopefully I'll get it sorted out.
In golfing terms, I think they call it a mulligan. You get to have the shot again. Maybe you can ask the ref. 3 wins in a row, massive game tonight, and realistically each game for the next couple of weeks is do or die because of that congestion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got to keep winning. If we hadn't have won, we would have been back in that sort of, all the teams at sort of the back end there. So it's good to keep winning, and the 4 against is always good too.
Always good speaking to you. Well played.
Thanks.
And it's a harsh reality, isn't it? One of the newest stars in the National Rugby League at 16 years, 238 days. Jordan Rankin on debut tonight, creating a little bit of history on Monday Night Football. The youngest player in first grade for 72 long years, and he acquitted himself in the interview and also on the field during the game very well tonight. Terrific moment for the youngster, of course. Plenty of mates here watching on. The Australian schoolboys team also here this evening watching on. He was a part of their squad last week. It's no mean feat being in the schoolboys at 16 years of age in year 11.
No, that's right. SG Ball, it would have seemed like a lifetime ago, but he played SG Ball this year. That's an under-18 competition. He's only 16. Now he's playing first grade. Doesn't turn 17 until the end of the year. Look, he handled himself well, as you said, both on the field and off the field in the interview, but I'm sure he's got a bright future ahead. He'd be kicking himself, he'd be thinking about that try, that missed try opportunity. He won't be able to sleep tonight because of that.
No, you're exactly right. He'll be laying in bed thinking, why didn't I catch that and score a try?
On debut.
On debut. Here he is coming across to the fans as well. As we said, his mum Tracy was here tonight watching on. We saw her, some of his mates, no doubt some of his schoolmates from up the road at Palm Beach, Currumbin. What a factory that school is. Will Matthews, as we said, and Brian Smith, who was coached plenty of schoolboys in his time. A nice moment there for the man who last week clocked up 500 games in our Royal Courage, congratulating a man, as we said, a kid playing his very first game at just 16 years of age tonight. A lovely rugby league moment right there.
Welcome back to the post-game show on Monday Night Football, where we have seen the Newcastle Knights comprehensively beat the Gold Coast Titans at their home ground, Skilled Park, 32-12. Happy Knights, well should they be, because they are still on track to make the finals, and there was some try-scoring prowess out wide tonight from the likes of Junior Sau, but surprisingly, Badge, the stats were pretty even.
Pretty even. Missed tackles, I guess, is the telling factor there, and you'd expect that the Titans would have missed more in that sort of game. There wasn't too much between them, but I just think, the better side won because they had too many attacking options. The points of attack that the Knights have through their forwards off the bench that get them going forward, and then Buderus getting out and finding Mullen and when he, on the edges. Junior Sau and MacDougall, they were hard to stop as well. So they just kept coming at the Titans all night.
Well, they used to attract defenders. Like their back row run great decoys, and they face them, and their centres, they're big and they're strong, and they just seem to find holes. They found open space, and I think it comes down to Buderus, and you can talk about him all night, but the clearance he gives and and just the distance, and he just stretches the defensive line. And
they were clearly the better team, and I thought what Brian Smith might be a bit disappointed with was the number of line breaks that they made that they didn't capitalise on and turn into points, because they had the door ajar there at half time to really go on and put a big score on, and that would have been enormous for their points differential going into the finals. But they probably let the opportunity slip a little bit. But having said that, the Titans did play a lot better in the second half.
And the Titans were up against it, a 16-6 deficit at half-time. They needed to be the first team to score first. That wasn't the case. In fact, Junior Sau crossed over the line barely a minute after half-time.
Didn't take them long, did it? Look, they've got some players in that Newcastle side that are very, very difficult to tackle one-on-one. And Junior Sau is one of those. There's a few others as well that we've already mentioned. And that's what makes it hard. Even when you do get them to ground, you've used 2 or 3, sometimes 4 defenders, so the next play of the ball makes it tough again. This was a relatively soft try there to Corey Patterson.
And that guy there, Corey Patterson, what a great kick he has. He has to have the kicking duties for the remainder of the season, surely.
It's a big boot, but look, I think that they're just the most improved side, or especially like the back row. But his kicking game, Kurt Gidley, I've watched him a couple of weeks, and he's starting to slice them around everywhere.
Terrific scenes after the game as well, seeing Brian Smith, who's coaching his 501st game, going over and congratulating a young guy who's had his first. And we've had some great emails tonight. Dwayne writes in talking about Brian Smith. Coaches, do we judge them on premierships? I mean, 501 games as a coach, and Brian Smith certainly has delivered over many, many years now. Is he a bit of an unsung hero of this Newcastle Knights team?
I think you judge coaches on a lot of things and you judge players on a lot of things. And certainly longevity in our game is a wonderful thing. If you can last that long at that level, you've got something special going for you. And a lot of people, and Gordon included, who played under Brian Smith, have a great word for his ability to work with people and to coach. So
Mate, you got to. I mean, obviously that is the pinnacle, and that is probably the monkey on his back. But the men that he has brought through, the sides that Parramatta held the record, I think, in 2001 for the style of football play. His sides play an attractive style of football. He actually gets kids or young men and turns them into great adults and great players. So, you can judge him on that as well. But I suppose he'd be dirty that he hasn't won a grand final, because that's what inspires him to get up every morning and go and do his job. But
he did win one in England, didn't he? I suppose,
in England, and that's still hard. But obviously Newcastle, they had Andrew Johns playing that day, and when I played with him at St George, they had a bloke by the name of Alan Langer.
Playing insides against him.
And at the end of the day, coaches get judged on their results, but the results is not necessarily winning a competition. I mean, otherwise you'd have 15 unsuccessful coaches every year, and that's not the case. It's about how many players they bring through, as you mentioned, Gordon, how many players they develop, how many players they bring through, and also if they're taking the club forward. And Brian Smith has done a great job at all the clubs he's been at. Probably stayed at Parramatta a little bit too long, but he's gone to Newcastle. And what he did was he put a brush through the club last year, copped a lot of flack, believed in his vision, and that vision is now coming to fruition. So he's a coach that's undoubtedly got a lot of talent, hasn't won a competition, but I think he's a very, very, very good coach.
Well, the man in question is currently in the post-match press conference with Steve Simpson. Let's take you there now.
Thanks. Brian, 3 in a row, does that constitute you're on a roll now?
Oh, it's nice, yeah. We haven't done it in the last couple of years, so that's an achievement in itself.
What's been the difference?
Oh, we probably played 3 teams that were, were down on their luck and probably at their back end of their run, I guess, in South's case. And good news for Gold Coast is the last 2 teams we've beaten to come good the next week, so get on them.
Some powerhouse ball running, that sort of looked like the difference there. Junior Sow was really effective, your back rowers on the fringes. I mean, was that the key for you guys tonight?
Yeah, we've been trying to play a bit more positively. Probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, as a coaching staff, we sort of asked the boys to try to find one more pass, not necessarily to a bloke going the other direction like we tried to do a couple of times tonight, but we wanted to ask better questions. We thought we needed to do that to take a bit of pressure off our defence by chewing some more petrol out of the opposition's tank, and of course on the scoreboard we want to score some more points, and I think the boys have done a pretty good job with that.
Brian, are you impressed with how your team's absorbing pressure? I like the Titans seemed to get off to a really good start, and then you were able to counterpunch with a couple of tries.
I thought that was a really an important part of what we did well tonight. We anticipated the Titans got an outstanding home record. They got an outstanding statistical record in the first half and the first 20 minutes. And as it turned out, they got a string of penalties, and they did mount some pressure on us. The boys withstood it quite well, and then the quality of the try that the boys scored down this right edge after Simo had sort of laid a bit of a foundation there, and Gids back on the inside of the pass from Jimmy I thought it was, it's the sort of stuff that you get a lot of, you get a nice feeling out of, because it's the sort of stuff you work on.
Goal line defence like that at the start of a game, is that about attitude or is it about defensive systems or a nice combination?
You need both.
Yeah.
You can have all the right attitude in the world if you're not, strategically, if everyone's not aware of what each other are doing, or someone makes just one bad call, and we did a couple of times tonight, but across the board we've improved that part of our game quite a lot. But I've just finished talking to the boys inside there and saying to them, everybody, we've got a large contingent. We brought all our full-time players, and we got 7 or 8 blokes there that are due back in the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and like me, they're all praying that we get the job done, because 1 or 2 losses at this stage means we're out. So we're all riding them because they all want to play in these big games that are coming up. You know, there's a bit of pressure there, and so far we're handling it. But I'm saying to the boys, I think to handle what we've got to do next week, which is go to Canberra and play, I think we'd need to improve on what we did tonight. I think that's might be the understatement of the year.
Steve, do you sense something building with the Knights?
I suppose we've had 3 good wins. Obviously, I think we can play a lot better, and we're going to need to play better in the coming weeks. I think the few sides we've got, especially starting with Canberra next week, they're playing really well at the moment, so don't want to put a dampener on it. I think we've been playing a lot better than what we have, but I think there's still a lot of improvement there.
And were you better tonight than you were against Parramatta, in your view?
Yes and no. I think certain areas we were. I think our attack was a little bit more fluent in certain areas, and I think our defence still needs a little bit of work. Even though I only scored 12 points, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement there. So we've got some work to do, but we're heading in the right direction, I think.
Steve, is it a real positive, the fact that whilst individuals are shining, it's genuinely a collective effort? Like, everyone's playing very solid footy?
Yeah, it is. It's great to be part of a team like that, I think. So everyone's doing their little job that they've got to do to make the team go well. So we've just got to keep chipping away at that.
Brian, what did you make of young Jordan? How he went for the Titans, the young fella?
To be fair, at that point, I think the game was pretty much done and dusted. But if I remember correctly, I think he chip-kicked the ball within the first couple of minutes. No shortage of confidence there, and it was a good kick. There was a space there between our defensive line and the fullback. He read it well, and maybe a little bit more luck with the bounce, they might have scored a try off it. So it doesn't appear as if he's going to die wondering.
You went over to him after the game. Nice gesture. What was said?
He came up to some of his mates that were just near our bench, so I just was next door to him, so I said hello, and I knew who he was, and he didn't know who I was. So I like that for a change.
Well, what's your view on bloody kids that are in year 11 and 16?
I'll be the last one if you're looking for a comment about shouldn't play them. I've given hundreds of kids a go at it over the years. I like what I read. Someone showed me where John Cartwright had said he was concerned about how he was physically and mentally, and I don't know him at all. So Carty's been around. He knows what that boy's capable of physically, and it's a bit scary. I can imagine his mum and dad were probably a family were a bit nervous, but he seems it's a reasonable build, and it's probably the worry I think with that sort of situation is more if you play them over and over and over again in a losing team, and they can't defend themselves, they get bashed around a bit. But as a one-off, it probably did him the world of good tonight.
Brian, you've got
was involved in a couple of Adam MacDougal's involved in a lot early in the game. Are you worried that you might lose him after a couple of reports?
I think this is where I say I didn't notice anything. No, we'll have a look at what happened there and make some comments, or do whatever we need to do later.
But he was one guy who did actually get you on a roll after that. It was sort of a crazy 7-minute period there. Got reported twice, then sort of set up the first good pass.
He's been in pretty good form, Dukes. And he's I think Simo came back into our team last week and again obviously this week, and it's added a bit of a confidence lift, I think, for our team, and it adds a bit more physical component. And when Dukes is in that sort of form as he's been the last few weeks, it adds a bit more thrust. And then we've got a couple of younger kids who've done that as well. Junior Sow, as you pointed out, he's been really strong for us as well. So we've got a bit of physical about us. But I actually watched the Canberra game on replay today. They got some physical about them too, so we'll need to get some tough pills ready for next weekend, I think.
How's Danny Buderus? Can you tell us about that elbow injury?
No, he had a bit of a split in his head tonight. He's got stitched again. I think he got stitched last week too, so he must be ducking a bit slower than he used to. He was okay.
Who's expected back for next week, if any?
Ben Cross, Jesse Royal, Wes Nagama, Keith Lalia, and Aku Uade, Cameron Serraldo, Danny Wicks, who all travelled with us tonight. So we've got a crew available for next week.
How hard is it to make change after 3 successive wins, or not hard at all?
Yeah, well, there'll be some, I suppose, but I'm not going to think too much about that just yet. We'll enjoy tonight. It's not an easy place to come, and I know they're down on some troops, but we're down a few ourselves at the moment. Our boys did a good job, so I think we deserve to enjoy the night a little bit.
You a club on the rise, Bill?
Pardon?
You a club on the rise?
I think we've a lot of improvement. Yeah, definitely. I think we've still got a way to go. I think the form teams are definitely the Manleys and the Storm and different sides like that. But in saying that, I think there's a lot of improvement in us, and we can trouble a few sides, I think. So definitely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, time for a quick break. We're going to be back after this. We'll read some more of your emails and also hear from the Ho side in their post-match press conference. You're watching Monday Night Football. Don't go away.
And this afternoon, Newcastle's Adam MacDougall was hit with 2 charges resulting from last night's win over the Titans. He's facing up to 2 weeks on the sidelines for a head slam and a dangerous throw.
And the Knights' Adam MacDougall has pleaded guilty to 2 charges from the game against the Titans. He'll miss 1 match. Clinton Fletcher, 9 News.
Now, we should have a look at a couple of incidents from the weekend, of course. Some action which may have a big bearing on the top 8 chances of some teams in the hunt for the top 8 as things stand right now. One of them is Newcastle's Adam MacDougall. He'll miss this weekend's game against the Raiders after taking the early plea for 2 separate tackles. From Monday night's game on the Gold Coast, there was a head slam, a contrary conduct charge, and also this dangerous throw. Now, the early plea for both of them means he will have 1 game to serve this weekend and have 86 points hanging over his head. Hard to argue against either of those.
I think he's done the smart thing and copped the 1 week suspension. But it will be a big blow to the Knights because he's been in outstanding form. His combination with McManus on that right side has been superb.
I would have said the Sydney Roosters forward pack was the toughest pack in the competition. But I'll tell you what, some of those Knights forwards they're making everybody sit up and watch. They're hitting, they're getting through the line. They're passing before the line and they're stinging in defence. I've got to say, some of their attacking flares come off the confidence from their defensive efforts.
And the Knights, they are getting players returning from injury, Steve, at the right end of the season. If they can win in Canberra, we'll know then that they are the real deal and perhaps a real dark horse in this premiership, because it's a great test to go down there. But some of the football they've played in recent times also is up there, some of the tries the Raiders have scored.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about Newcastle is they can just shift the ball so quickly, can't they? They can get it out to their wings with just a pass or 2. And it is going to be an intriguing game because I suppose Canberra, very freewheeling, but the one thing they haven't done is, I suppose, do it against a really favoured side. I mean, they obviously took Penrith to the cleaners last week, but what I think Neil Henry wants to see and what the players want to see is that same level of confidence against sides that are above them on the table and expected to beat them. So I can't wait for this game, and I'm a bit disappointed at the end of the show. I've got to give my tip for that one because it's the toughest one to tip.
Well, and you talk about form players in the competition. Kurt Gidley, I mean, how good is he going? He's a guy that's the ultimate utility player. You can play him anywhere in the back line, you can play him even at dummy half, and his combination and ability to work out what's going on around the rucks with Danny Buderus has been one of the driving forces behind the Knights' revival.
OK, now there's plenty of ability, of course, on the field for the Knights at the moment, but you know why they're so good on the field when you see what they can do off the field. Now, we saw this vision on Monday night in the dressing room up there at Skilled Park. Wes Nguama, Cameron Serraldo and Chris Bailey all out of action at the moment, keeping the ball in the air. I mean, this is Cristiano Ronaldo, bloody David Beckham and Ryan Giggs at their absolute best.
I thought this looked familiar, I thought it looked familiar when I showed it outside. And the reason is because in the background there you can see me walking into the room, because I actually caught the end of that as I was walking into the room. But I'm a bit disturbed that you've got the cameras on for that long after the game. What sort of stuff are you guys recording and watching?
No, it's all above. Can we see the vision again, just to see you prowling through the dressing room?
No, just right at the end there.
Looking for a story.
And that's when they dropped the ball.
Yeah, that's when they dropped it. Yeah.
They brought the unbalance.
There you are, in
right
the trench coat, in your Daily Telegraph issued trench coat.
My hand in my pocket with the tape recorder on. Yeah,
all that's missing was the hat with the old press card on the side saying, "Hold the presses, I've got a scoop."
The Superman suit, unfortunately, has gone missing for a while. But it is amazing skills, isn't it? Unbelievable.
They'll run it on the final tackle. Peden, Gidley, quick hands for the quickest man in the game. Albert scores. McClinton lightning fast. Spins and he scores. Gets it back quickly. Johns, rubber kick. Albert, try number 2 for Darren Albert. Younger brother Andrew. Gidley, great hands. Should be another try. Gidley does it all himself. Short side. Off the side of the boot. Mullins. He's flying above the pack. Final tackle for the Raiders. Numbers back on the inside. Wow. We're going to have a tied up ball game here. Kennedy scores.
And there's a shot.
Long range. It's there. Williamson might take the field goal. Here it is. Will we have a tied up ball game? It's successful.
A young-looking Luke Williamson there, of course, now playing with Manly. The Johns brothers, Ben Kennedy and David Furner in there. So Darren Albert, Matt Gidley, so some blasts from the past there. 1999 that was.
Last millennium.
21 all.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Great performance.
Let's have a look at the competition later to show you how important this afternoon's game is between these two sides. They were in the 8 after the Warriors, Dragons and Panthers win. They now slip out of the 8, Canberra and Newcastle, level with the Tigers and the Gold Coast on 24. Now, if Parramatta beat the Tigers in Monday Night Football, that will put Parramatta on 24 as well, and the race becomes even tighter. Whichever team wins here with their for and against will go into the top 8. And the other team will stay in 10th spot to show you how important today's game is.
Yeah, it's a real pressure game, and I think that's probably why Brian Smith has made those late changes. Obviously wants to get a bit of extra size in the pack. And the Raiders in outstanding form down here. I'm expecting this to be the game of not just the round. I think it's the game that we've probably been waiting for in terms of point scoring. I think there's going to be some great tries scored.
Fingers crossed. Speaking of Brian Smith, a short time ago, I caught up with him to have a chat about today's game. Well, Brian, one of the toughest tasks in the game at the moment, to play Canberra in Canberra. It should be a beauty.
It should, yeah. They're in good form, but we've got nice weather and good day for footy.
And your side's in form too.
Yeah, we've put 3 wins together and 4 of our last 5. I think that suggests we're about, in reasonably good form, about the same as they are, I'd say.
Interesting time of the year. You just can't afford to lose any games between now and the end of the season with everyone so tight.
Yeah, and it's getting tighter all the time. Those people who plan things at the NRL done a good job again. They want us all to finish on the same amount of points, so it's getting pretty close.
What's the key area for your side today?
Oh, we'd like to up the ante a bit on the way we've defended in recent weeks. Even though we've won 3 games, we feel like we can add some intensity, and we'll probably need it today, I think.
You've got some good young talent coming through. One in particular, Junior Sau's been in outstanding form. 7 tries from 8 games. He's a good young talent.
He is, yeah, and he's done quite well this year for us. He came hoping to make something of himself, and we've given him the opportunity. But he's really worked as hard as anybody in our footy club this year. I think he needed to learn a few things about what it takes to be a professional football player. But he's taken the steps that you need to take, and I'm sure he'd be keen for a big game today.
I'm sure he would be, as all the players for the Newcastle Knights would be, including Danny Buderus, of course, in his final season, Kurt Gidley. When you are a young player in a club with those sorts of players in the lineup, it must be of great assistance to have that experience there.
Oh, without a doubt, and particularly when you're coming into a club that's starting to pick up some form. You come into a club that's sort of struggling, it's a lot more difficult as a youngster, but he's coming to the Knights who've been through their rough period last year, probably even earlier this year they were in a bit of a slump, but he's come in at a time when the club's really starting to get some go forward happening, and that's creating plenty of space for him out wide.
Well, let's have a look at our Newcastle match notes for this afternoon as we look at Junior Sau there. No Adam MacDougall today, out suspended, but Newcastle are side in form at the moment, but they don't necessarily like playing here in Canberra. Not a great record. Their attack, like the Canberra Raiders, is outstanding, and with Kurt Gidley leading the way, they can break a tackle.
Yeah, they've got great support play. That's what I like about Newcastle. Gidley is the prime example of that. Runs off the second phase play a lot, and because he's got the opposition on the back foot, comes up with a lot of tackle busts. They've scored plenty of points in recent matches, and that's a sign of a team that's playing in confidence and all moving forward, expecting something to happen, and I think they'll play that same way again today.
We saw Ben Cross there warming up. He's back today, and he has been terrific for them, leading the way. You need, as you know, Wayne, in these big games, your forwards to dominate, to give those players who can score the points a platform to work off.
Yeah, well, they play a very physical game, and Ben Cross is a key man in their physical confrontation up the middle. As a representative player, he's a player that's going to add a lot of thrust to them, and it'll add a lot of confidence, because the other factor today about down here is that it's a great day. It's not a miserable day, it's good conditions, and I think that mentally is going to be a big lift, or provide a big lift for the Newcastle side.
Well, they don't have a great run home, the Newcastle Knights. They are at home next week, but they take on some pretty impressive football teams. As we look at their run home, they've got the Raiders here today. They do play the Cowboys at home next week, and they have the Storm at home, but they finish with the Storm and the Broncos. Brisbane away and the Storm at home. The Cowboys, of course, battling for that wooden spoon. They won't be easy despite their place on the competition ladder. It's not the easiest of run homes for the Newcastle Knights.
No, it is a pretty tough draw home, but having said that, if Newcastle are going to make the 8, what they'd like is a couple of hard games to finish the last couple of rounds, so they can actually work through the sort of patterns and what the techniques they'd like to take into the finals.
Full time, Canberra 38, Newcastle 18. That makes it very tough for the Newcastle Knights in their run home. Canberra back into the 8, and their for and against gets the boost, and it's a tough one for the Knights. Ben Cummins getting the round of the kitchen, and he leaves the field. Both camps unhappy with his performance. That must mean he went all right.
I think so. I think so. Actually, I thought it was a tough game to referee today out there today. Lots of tension in the match, lots of pressure in the match, but I thought he did a fair job overall.
Canberra, one more home game to round out the season against the Bulldogs. They're on the road the next couple of weeks against Souths next week, and then the North Queensland Cowboys in Townsville. So you would think they've got 1 foot in the top 8. They've got to stay there though. Won't be easy because teams are breathing down their neck, and that adds a little bit of pressure as well. Let's head down the touchline, Gary Belcher.
Yeah, and I've got Jarrod Mullen, the Knights 5'8", with me. A bit of a disappointing afternoon for you, no doubt, Jarrod.
Yeah, no good, mate. We prepared well, but obviously we didn't put it on the park.
They play an up-tempo style of game. They're pretty quick. It's hard to stay with them, isn't it?
Yeah, they blew us away in the middle there, and after the first couple of sets of the game, we knew it was going to be tough, and we didn't regroup after that.
Some afternoons things just don't go your way, kicks that bounce out when you don't want them to. It just seemed like that sort of afternoon for you. I see a couple of times there you weren't too happy.
Yeah, mate, some of those days the bounce of the ball goes your way, some of it doesn't, and didn't today for sure.
Pretty tough run home, mate. You need 3 out of 3 now, it looks like.
Yeah, it does, and it starts with, the Cowboys next week, so we're looking for a big performance.
All right, mate, hope it improves. Thanks very much.
Here's the ladder. Now let's try and work this out. The Canberra Raiders now move to just 1 point behind the Brisbane Broncos in 6th place. They could conceivably, if the Roosters fall in a hole, Canberra could finish in the top 4. They have to keep winning, and the Roosters have to lose twice, but they could finish in the top 4. The Warriors, their for and against is no good. Newcastle back in 11th with the Gold Coast 12. Newcastle is under pressure because they've got a tough run home.
Well, they have got a tough run home, and I suppose what was more disappointing than anything else out there today was the fact that they didn't play with discipline. They conceded far too many undisciplined errors with the football, and also gave away too many penalties. And that is the thing that they need to address more than anything else if they're going to be a finals contender.
Well, you all will see the Canberra Raiders next Sunday afternoon in NRL Sunday for round 24 when they take on the Rabbitohs. Promises to be a very entertaining game. Plenty of points, I'm sure, in that. But this afternoon, it was all the green machine again here at the Canberra Stadium. 38 points to 22. They run out victors over the Newcastle Knights. On behalf of Wayne Pearce, Gary Belcher and the crew, I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye from Canberra.
We've got some great minutes of rugby league on the way.
With the finals looming, the Canberra Raiders are shaping as a serious threat to the more fancied heavyweight sides at the top of the ladder. Today, the Raiders turned it on against Newcastle.
74 points against the Panthers last week, and the Raiders started today's match in a similar vein.
The Canberra Raiders, once again, have scored a try from inside their own half.
Newcastle's defence was paper thin, and Campese made them pay.
Terry Campese 4 last week, he gets 1 this week.
But the Knights weren't the only ones missing tackles.
Now Patterson through, scores, he's over.
With both sides sitting just out of the 8, there was plenty at stake.
And it's on.
Round 1 was even, but the Raiders put on a knockout combo just before the break.
Easy short ball, Picker's over.
Picker's try stung, while Milne sent the Knights to the canvas.
They'll score again. They do go back-to-back just before half-time.
Tom Leroy-Lars could find himself in hot water after a dangerous throw on Ben Cross, but it didn't stop the Canberra juggernaut.
The try-scoring machine, Trevor Thurling is in again.
Thurling's try consolidated another big win. Milne's second showed the new green machine were the real deal.
Here's the chase from Milne. Did he get there?
The video ref said yes by a fingertip.
Simultaneous.
The Knights crossed for 2 late tries, but it wasn't enough.
So another big win for Canberra, consolidating their place in the top 8. Campese again leading the way with a try and 5 goals.
All right, now, Steve Menzies, one of the greatest players of all time, having a big night tonight, big tribute night. And joining us out there is the great, the one and only Reggie Reagan.
It's absolutely craps all over it big time. Everyone's arrived here thinking about one thing. You know what it is? They're thinking about Beaver. Ain't that right? Guilty, the Steve Menzies tribute night. And as I speak, they're decrumpling the red carpet. Yeah, let me tell you something. The punters here are going bananas. I'm joined by Michael Barney. How are you, Barney? Tell him, bro. Fantastic to see you down there for me too. Now listen, on the menu tonight. Hey, look, there's no turtle or dugong. What's it doing?
Oh, there's fish. Oh, still seafood, yeah.
Your thoughts of playing with the Beaver?
Oh, mate, he's my favourite player of all time, and I've told him many times, and he hates me saying it, but great honour and great privilege.
But what about your moustache? It's growing brilliantly. Yeah, I've been with you. I've been away for about a month. Mate, Darryl, your thoughts on the Beaver?
I've always loved the Beaver. Something that I've been thinking about for a long, long time. Hey, can you stop doing that? Oi, can you stop it?
Sorry, Darryl.
No, it's been a great...
There's big rumours going around that he might be gay. Can you elaborate?
Not that anything that I saw, mate, but what goes on behind closed doors usually stays there, you know?
Yeah, what goes in camp stays on camp, so to speak. Who are you dressed by tonight?
Mother, father shipped in a bit, Heath Strange, Timmy Toy.
Yeah, mate, now, mate, what a bargain. $250 a head. I mean, it's hard to get value from Underland these days.
I'm yet to see the menu course as well. Here we get a little on-course of spring rolls and dim sims, and that's it.
Mate, and the Chief's watching, of course, leaving his memories these days, what you did to him. He probably doesn't know who you are. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Chief. It's Mark Carroll. I used to love having great occasions with you, and I miss you.
I'm joined by, I reckon, Steve Menzies' #1 fan. Well, Wendy Harmer, big night plan for the Beaver.
Could you rephrase that, please?
Hey, I know you too well.
No. He's a gorgeous boy. He's like a Greek god. He's just got that little bit of an injury on the nose there that makes you know he's been in the rough and tumble. And he's still got all his own cartilage, unlike your good self.
Ah, that's right.
Reg.
Or heartlage. How you going? Been keeping well?
Your gut is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's not my gut.
Yeah, big night planned there. Big night. And, of course, Matt Johns couldn't be with us tonight. He's actually got something on. He's dressing up at a costume party. Unlucky. How many beers do you reckon Reggie's had? He's had a couple, and by the end of the night, he could have had a few more. I think Reggie's on fire already. Now, the Beaver tribute dinner continues, and Reggie's still out there, and now he's joined by Beaver's beautiful wife, Sue Yin.
Oh, I've got one too many. And here at the... At Beaver's tribute, I'm joined by Steve Menzies' partner herself, Sue Yin.
Hey
Sue Yin, how you going?
I'm very well, thank you.
Ironically, Sue Yin used to be my partner, didn't we? I was a lecturer at Sydney Uni. She was in older blokes and I was into younger women. It was a perfect fit. Sue Yin, what a night. Fantastic.
It is. It's wonderful. It's amazing to see how many people are here, actually. It's pretty overwhelming.
And when you walked in here, Steve, did you get all emotional? And
yeah, I think when we came up the escalators and there was all the cameras, we were bit shocked how many people were here, and I think Stephen was a bit embarrassed by all the attention, but it's a wonderful cause here tonight for Sydney Children's Hospital.
And he's a good man, isn't he? Hey?
He's a good man. He is a very
I can't believe I introduced you to. Hey, I'm very possessive with my women, but I didn't think it was a threat. I thought he was gay. You still might be. Both don't know till they're 40. Anyway, who's going to shed the first tear tonight? You, Beaver, or Steve's old man?
Well, Ken Arthurson actually just spoke, and I actually started to tear up. So I think I was first horse out of the gates. But I think Stephen started to get a little bit emotional. So I don't know. I think I'll be sobbing by the end of it for sure.
Well, there you go, everybody. Put your hands together. It's Su Yin here, and Su Yin. Always a pleasure. I think there's something still there. Back to you, Fat.
Reggie's on fire at the end of the night.
How many more crosses do we have to do?
We've got a few more crosses yet.
I want to see him at the end of the show.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
That's classic.
All right, looks like a great night out there, and he's fully deserving of a wonderful send-off as well, Steve Menzies. Now, the big night in the city continues out at Beaver's Tribute, and Reggie's out there with the great man himself. Hey, Reg.
It's unbelievable. I do judo 3 times.
Yeah. Reg. Reg.
Hey, Fatty, how are you?
Yeah, going good.
Mate,
not as good as you.
It's going off. Everyone's going mad. I'm joined by some Eagles Angels. We've got Lane Beachley, 7 times world champion.
Yay, surfing.
And surfing. And we've got Wendy Harmer.
Yes.
Little spunky bugger you are. We've got Shelley Oates Wilding. Here's a Julie Olympian.
A Julie Olympian.
Julie Olympian. And we've got Nikki Androgynous, who's a former triathlete at the Olympics.
World champion.
And ladies, got to say, as every bloke wants to know, why do you girls love the Beaver so much?
It's got a great looking helmet.
Well, you know, when I met my husband, the Beaver was playing. He's been doing it for 15 years now. He's retiring. I'm going to get a divorce.
Ladies, hey.
And we're talking about the Olympics everywhere, all the role models. We've got our own role model in Beaver. Right here, he's a perfect gold medalist.
Nick?
I grew up with my Beaver, and I'm going to miss him so much. Bye, Beaver. Thank you for the memories.
Ditto.
How much do we love the Beaver?
Yeah, we love it. They love it. What can I say?
You're not getting any.
Oh, Wendy. Hey?
It's all over your face.
It's all over my face. That's right. Anyway,
all right, Reg. Reg, thank you, mate. That's good. Thanks, Reg.
He's on fire, the Reg.
He can't even talk. That's gold.
He can't talk.
I've never heard of so many Beaver gags and helmet gags in one segment.
I thought we were told no more.
Oh, there's no more?
No more.
All right, we'll cross out, I think, one more time to Reg to see how he might have Steve Menzies next time we talk to him. The Knights are at home up at Newcastle Stadium against the Cowboys, and I think the Knights can rack up a score here, Chief.
Yeah, look, the Cowboys have got Thurston back. They're just about at full strength, and they've done all right. Even though they've lost a lot of games in a row, they've still been really competitive. They're only 1 win away from not getting that wooden spoon, so it's going to be a tough game. But we've got MacDougall back, we've got Wes Nguama back, and after last week. And
you were
playing at home.
disappointed last week.
Oh, very disappointed last week. I think the boys are going to be right for it, but it will be a tough game. Boys, just while we're there, of course, Steve Menzies having his testimonial this year. Danny Buderus also having his at the same time. Next week is going to be a big week for us when he plays his last home game. But we have some T-shirts that are on sale for Danny. And just on that one, he's having a luncheon next Wednesday on the 27th at West Leagues Club, and the tickets are from $35. He has been... if Joey wasn't in our club, he would be the best player to ever play for the Newcastle Knights. He's represented Australia. He's broken a lot of records, and a wonderful ambassador, a true gentleman of the game. So if you can get along next Wednesday to his tribute, make sure you do. It's one not to miss. And also at the same time, T-shirts for sale for Danny. They're $25. commemorating his career. There they are there, Danny Buderus, number 9. They're nicely done.
It's
and
nice,
you get
isn't it?
that,
Yeah.
it is nice and
Different.
subtle. And you can get that from the Newcastle Knights Kingdom store for next Saturday at the game, or you can go straight onto the website and get that as well. But they're $25, one not to miss. Good on you, Danny boy.
All right, yeah, congratulations on a great career, Danny. To finish off Beavers tribute night, crossing back out to the end of the city there, Reg Reagan's got the Beaver with him. And Wayne Beavers.
You can't be talking about the chief. He could be. Who knows? He is. Okay, we on? Hello, Australia. I'm joined by the two Beavers, Beaver Menzies and Beaver Beavers. Yeah. Beaver, great night.
Yeah, it is, mate. It's a good turnout here. It's an honour to have everyone turn up, and it's for a good cause, at Sydney Children's Hospital.
What about that girl, Suyin? She's a peach.
Yeah, no, she's a nice girl. Yeah, she's a beauty.
She's great, mate. You've done it really well. She's your greatest
jackpot.
prize.
It's a jackpot, isn't it? So,
Yeah, she's hit the jackpot.
It's
well
good
done.
serious.
Exactly.
Thanks, mate.
And Wayne Beavis, the bloke he's played over 340 games, and a bloke that's taken 20% of that beaver. Yeah! How good's that? It's fantastic.
Plenty.
Your shout.
More to come.
How are you, old son?
Hey,
Now, what a bloke this bloke's been.
champion,
Yeah.
undoubtedly.
Yeah.
One of the easiest blokes I've ever had to manage.
He
Been
is,
a
isn't
pleasure.
he? No drama.
None at all.
Beaver, there's a lot of fans out there looking through the barrel of the camera right across Australia, Southeast Asia, New Zealand, South Africa, through Setanta in Europe. You got a message for them?
No, just hopefully the boys finish the season well, and just thanks to everyone that's come along tonight. It's been a great night. Reggie?
To his last comment, modest. High five. High five, Beaver. 20%. Take it sleazy. Back to you.
I think it was about half hour between the second line cross and that one. I think he's had a couple.
Deterioration.
He's had a
I'll be
couple.
ringing Reggie Reagan early in the morning
He's
just
on
to see
fire.
how he
All
feels.
right, we'll take another break, come back, and what's some music for you to take out the show tonight? See you in a minute.
Their season is alive still, the Newcastle Knights. Full-time at Energy Australia Stadium. Newcastle 38, North Queensland 24. The big story is, how bad is the injury to Danny Buderus? They stay alive, only just Newcastle. They take on Melbourne next Saturday afternoon here at home while the Cowboys play the Raiders. The conditions are getting worse by the minute here in Newcastle, and I'm sure all the players are desperate to get off, get warm, get dry and get home. They've got a little bit of work to do because they need to speak to Stewart Raper, and Jarrod Mullen is downstairs with Stewart.
Well, a good victory, but it must have been a bit of a scare in that second half.
Yeah, we talked about half-time. We knew the Cowboys were going to throw everything at us, and a bit disappointed to leak those points, but, 2 points at this end of the year means a lot.
And yourself personally, a couple of tries. I thought your performance was very good.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Building up to the final, so, got to hit the form right at the end of the year.
And the Storm next week, so it's going to be a big week of preparation for that.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough, and, the boys know that, and, we've got the home crowd behind us, so, hopefully we can get a win.
All right, thanks very much, Jarrod.
Ching, ching.
There is Jarrod Mullen and Stewart Raper desperate to get out of the rain as well.
And you just knew that they were going to make a game of their Newcastle 38, Mullen 2, Buderus, MacDougall, Nguama, McManus and Gidley, 7 from 7.
And O'Donnell a double for the Cowboys. Ty Williams and Payne the tries. John Williams 4 from 4. Outstanding goal kicking tonight in extremely difficult conditions as the rain continues to bucket down here in Newcastle. As the players say farewell to their fans here tonight, just over 10,000 here. NRL Sunday tomorrow. Wayne Pearson, myself and Gary Belcher at ANZ Stadium. The Rabbitohs and the Raiders. Should be an entertaining game. The Toyota Cup at 11:30. Pre-game show at 1:30, the NRL kickoff at 2 p.m. It is a wizard-free zone tomorrow, and it's on Fox Sports 2. Coming up next, another wizard-free zone from ANZ Stadium. The second match in the doubleheader, the Bulldogs taking on the Eels. That is next here on Fox Sports 2. On behalf of the wizard Gary Freeman, we've turned his mic off. Stewart Raper and the crew, I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye from Newcastle.
And the big news, Danny Buderus, a torn bicep. It's his season over. And as we talk about Danny Buderus, Andrew Johns, I will throw it back to you. A very close mate of yours, played a lot of your rugby league with him. And I think from everyone in rugby league, a disappointing way to say goodbye to his career here in Australia.
Yeah, he is devastated. I spoke to him this morning and, yeah, he has torn that bicep. He's going to go have an operation later next week. He'll be out for 6 months. He actually hurt the ball passing a ball, believe it or not, just throwing a long ball. He said he's been tight in the biceps for the last 12 years, whatever that means. And the rehab officer up there said, you're going to have some problems with this, and really try to loosen off over that time. But he's had a good run with injuries. The way he plays, it's a wonder he's gone so long. But he spoke to his club Leeds last night. He's going in the Super League and there's no troubles there. So devastating news. Would love to see him play next week at Newcastle, his last game, but yeah, no fairy tales for Bedsy.
Would have been a huge night up at Energy Australia next week when they take on the Melbourne Storm. Yeah, Danny Buderus has been a champion, and I'm sure that Leeds have got their fingers crossed that that injury will come good, because he'll certainly have an impact over in the English Super League as well in the next couple of seasons. 60 points or over 60 points scored in that game. That was the case at Energy Australia Stadium last night as well, when the Cowboys up against the Newcastle Knights. This was definitely a must-win for the Newcastle side, and they got away with Danny Buderus next to the post in the opening minute. Set the trend.
Everything just worked well for the Knights in that first 40. I thought Danny Buderus was outstanding. Kirk Gidley was busy. The guy I've got a huge rap on that really stood up was this man, Jarrod Mullen, just through the pass. You know, there was a lot of conjecture around how he came out of that Origin series last year, that he was suffering a bit with confidence. Well, slowly he's rebuilt. And he was execution perfect in that first 40 last night. It was as good a performance as you'll see from a 5'8".
I still think he's the best young player in the game, Jarrod Mullen.
Yeah, well, this is the best. That's the best half I've seen him play since he's come to first grade. And what we forget, he's still only 21. He's been in first grade for 3 or 4 years now. With Danny Buderus being out now, the Knights need Jarrod to stand up and do things like this. He was so good last night. He was strong. His leadership was out there. His passing, his kicking. He's just such a fabulous player.
Yeah, I've got no doubt about it with the Newcastle Knights. They've improved in leaps and bounds. And I think when they're on the front foot and they're playing with plenty of energy and they're gaining momentum through the ruck, that they can score as many points as any other side in the competition. But this was another test for them last night in the second half. When you've got the foot on the throat or foot through the door, you need to kick it in.
Yeah, well, what do you remember too? They were missing Corey Patterson, who's a strike player, and Steve Simpson, who cleans a lot of that stuff up in the ruck.
Would you be happy with their performance in the second half?
I didn't watch Loz, so I watched the first half and went to bed happy.
They backed off, and you've got to remember that there was one man in the opposition side that really turned up the heat. Jonathan Thurston went to work in that second 40 and was simply brilliant.
With 2 weeks out from the finals, and as you point out, Ben, we will have a look at who we think will make the finals very shortly. They led 30-0 at half-time. Now, if differential is going to be important in 2 weeks' time...
That's what I'm getting at.
That a 14-point win is a lot less than what it looked like being after 40 minutes of this game. That had to be disappointing.
Well, you need to be ruthless. In this situation, you just cannot afford to rest on your laurels at any stage. Now, this is the greatest disappointment of the night. Danny Buderus playing his last game at Energy Australia Stadium. A wonderful ornament to the game, but a true champion for the Newcastle Knights.
Let's be honest, here's the score. Danny Buderus not in the Knights team for the rest of the season. Are they gone?
Well, we'll take a break very shortly. We'll come back and we'll discuss who we think will make the top 8, and part of that discussion will be Newcastle. Without Danny Buderus, we'll be back in a moment. All right, well, let's have a look at Newcastle. A good win for them last night, but tough finish. Now, at home next week, they won't fit the people in for the Storm. The Broncos to finish away from home, I just don't know.
Well, I had them beating the Storm next week.
With Buderus.
With Buderus playing. With him being out, it changes everything. I don't know how they'll go and replace him, whether they put Matt Hilda to hooker or played Kirk Gidley dummy half, or where they'll go, but he's a huge loss.
Duro maybe, he comes into the mix?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
No, I don't think... I think Mate, they might defend Hilda as a hooker, but play Kurt in there. I don't really know.
You never know. I know that Chief always sprouts about the fact that they've never lost an old boys game at Newcastle. Yep. They've never lost the last home game.
He sprouts anyway.
Chief was usually at 12 schooners by then.
And I think that they might rise to the occasion. Okay. I'm not saying they can win, but I think they'll put in a very, very solid performance. And I think Brian Smith has always shown throughout his football career he can bring a masterful coaching performance to the table when his team is undermanned.
Laurie,
and they will be no more undermanned than without
If Danny Buderus was playing next week, it would be the most emotional game for a few years up there. They would have had 28,000 there. Old Boys Day, they would have won for sure.
Yeah, huge test for Newcastle next week, and of course in the Brisbane game following that.
OK, let's go on to the Knights beating the Cowboys last night. Led 30-0 at half-time and in fact scored the quickest try of the year, the first try of the match. I've just got to say, and we've said it before this year, Brian Smith has turned a Newcastle side who could not win without Andrew Johns into one of the best sides to watch in the competition without Andrew Johns, and they can threaten all comers.
Yeah, you know, and he started it the right way though, Vossi. You know, he made them first and foremost a hard side to beat. You know, with Joey, I've said this to people before, mate, the Knights become complacent and they become a little bit arrogant. They started to become a side that believed they could beat teams 40-28 or 40-30. When Smith's come along and he's addressed that again, and they are first and foremost a hard side to beat. They dig it in defence and they run hard and attack. But all this stuff that, you know, the football, it's just the cream on the cake.
Well, let's talk about the good and the bad from last night. Danny Buderus, first of all, Paul, and you can talk more about the form. First of all, the good, watching Danny Buderus play, but sadly this is going to be the last time we see him in the National Rugby League, but he was at his best.
Well, they're great to watch, Newcastle, and last week was very disappointing playing against Canberra. They kept dropping the ball, but I want to back up what Matty said. Brian Smith made some hard decisions last year and was copying it left, right and centre that they tried to get rid of him, right, the supporters and all that. He made hard decisions, brought in young blokes, and they got back rowers out wide. They're great to watch.
Well, he figured he got rid of players that couldn't win without Andrew Johns, and good luck to Josh Perry, who's gone to Manly, and a whole stack of players, but he basically had to do it. Now we get to the bad news. This injury, boys, can you tell us about the pain? And they're talking, it's a 6-month deal.
Yeah, 6 months. It's one of the worst ones in the game, along with a pectoral tear. They're ones that you really can't... You can't explain until you've actually had one happen to you, and I had a bicep. Look at that. You can see there, that's the bicep ripped off the bone, which was pretty innocuous, Matty, because he just did one from a pass. And felt a little twinge, and all of a sudden...
He did it passing.
He went into a tackle. Apparently Chris Bailey was out wide and he's called the ball and he sort of feigned one way and threw it. And what it felt, apparently he felt just a little twinge and thought, oh, that felt strange. Then he made a tackle, felt the twinge again, and then done an identical pass about 5 minutes later. Bang.
So it's like an elastic band snapping.
Next week, the Knights... Storm. They got the Storm and the Broncos. And, mate, the next week, which is Old Boys Day, last home game of the year, was going to be Danny's last game against the Storm up there. Would have been one of the games of the year. Still be a great game, but losing Buderus is a big blow to the Knights, end of the contest.
Yeah, absolutely, and to Leeds. What about Leeds? I've seen that, so he'll miss the start of the season, one would think too.
And Newcastle has paid a very heavy price for its 38-24 win over the North Queensland Cowboys. The heavy price, of course, I speak of is the injury to Danny Buderus last night for the Newcastle Knights, and they scored 30 points in the first half against the North Queensland Cowboys, and it was Buderus himself that scored the first try, the quickest try this season so far. It came after just 48 seconds, and for the first 40 minutes of this game, Newcastle could do no wrong, and this was the start of what was a brilliant first 40 minutes of football. Buderus, the quickest try of the season, it was 48 seconds, that try, and it was a terrific performance in the first 40 minutes by the Newcastle Knights.
Well, they led 30-0 at half-time, so they were totally in control of the game, took their foot off the accelerator a little bit in the second half, but they show what they are capable of. But as you pointed out, the loss of Danny Buderus, or potential loss of Danny Buderus for the season, is something that's going to really throw a spanner in the works, because he obviously is the key man at Newcastle.
Well, 10 minutes before the end of the game, he did come off injured, and we were only speculating at the time, but Danny Buderus doesn't come off injured unless it's something serious. He had that look on his face. We all thought it was serious. Here's what Coach Brian Smith had to say about it.
I think the doctors pretty much know how to estimate the damage there off the bat when it's as bad as it apparently is. So, I guess everything there is subject to the scanning and all that, so that they get the exact images they need to make a full decision, but that certainly doesn't look good. It would depend on how bad it is, I guess, but if it requires surgery, it's a 6-month injury.
It is just crippling news for the Newcastle side heading into the playoffs. They need to keep winning to make that top 8, but also for the Newcastle community and Danny Buderus himself. Of course, next week would have been his final game at Energy Australia Stadium in Newcastle colours. That may not be the case now. He had scans this morning. The word is that we will get the results of those scans later this afternoon. So if it comes through while we are on air with NRL Sunday, we will bring that to you. But is this the season for the Newcastle Knights? And you don't always get to go out the way you want to, Wayne, and this would be a bitter pill for him to swallow, Danny Buderus. You see here, this is when he realised that he was in trouble after they got a penalty. They took a shot at goal there, the Newcastle Knights, and you know Danny Buderus, when he walks off looking like that, he's not coming off to have a rest.
No, he's got a high pain tolerance. He's amongst the toughest players that have ever played the game, and what an irony and how unfortunate for probably two of the greatest Knights, as in Andrew Johns and Danny Buderus, to have their careers, I suppose, drawn from underneath them, really, I suppose you could say, because they didn't have the opportunity to play out the season, didn't do that final lap after their last game, and well, I mean, from my point of view, I just feel really for Danny Buderus because he's given so much to the Newcastle club, and it's an injury that's not that common, but it's an injury that is going to keep him out for quite a while.
Yeah, it's a bitter blow for them, and we wish Danny the best of luck. And of course, we will get those results of the scans sometime today. And if we don't have it here on NRL Sunday, you'll be able to pick it up on Fox Sports News, no doubt, throughout the afternoon.
The NRL career of Newcastle legend Danny Buderus looks to have come to a sudden end after he tore a bicep in last night's win over North Queensland. In the ANZ Stadium doubleheader, Parramatta defeated the Bulldogs and Manly thrashed the Tigers, while the injury to England-bound Buderus overshadowed the Knights' win.
At a sombre recovery session, Buderus was nowhere to be seen, and that's something, sadly, Newcastle will have to get used to. While the final verdict on the skipper's injury is still to come, there's little doubt his days as a Knight are numbered.
You know, see how upset he was emotionally, and the realisation that it was his last game for the club. He loved this club, and he bleeds red and blue. So very sad night.
An inspirational performer at club, state and international level, he was due to play his final home game against the Storm next Saturday.
It's pretty shattering, so hopefully we can sort of regather ourselves for this week and put a good performance in for ourselves and for Beds.
The Knights' win over the Cowboys last night keeps them right in the mix for a semi-final berth, but the loss of Buderus meant there was little reason to celebrate.
Just reminds you of what a cruel game rugby league is.
Knights captain Danny Buderus could miss the rest of the season after injuring his bicep against the Cowboys last night. Manly thumped the Tigers. The Eels struggled to beat the Bulldogs, while there was no celebrating for the Knights despite their win at home.
When's a win not a win when you lose your best player for the season?
It looks like he's ruptured his bicep, so he's not very good at all at the moment. Pretty sombre dressing room in there right now.
With Buderus off to Leeds next year, the injuries denied him a fitting goodbye to Newcastle. I'm sure the club will still give him a magnificent farewell, but it's not the way he would have wanted to go out. Before all that, Buderus scored the Knights' first try as they went 30-0 clear by half-time.
Newcastle in their first set have scored the try.
The Cowboys fought back, but it finished 38-24.
And they're in again. Luke O'Donnell gets himself a double.
One of rugby league's greatest ever servants was forced to call it quits today. Newcastle captain Danny Buderus has confirmed a torn bicep will end his career in the NRL before moving on to play with Leeds in England next season.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that sent a message and some support. It's been totally overwhelming. I've lived every boy's dream, I guess, to play, but definitely didn't get the fairy tale, I suppose. But
this was the incident that has left the Knights' finals hopes in tatters. 2 plays later, Buderus realises something isn't right, and there was real concern in the dressing room.
He just walked straight off the field.
Buderus now has a 5 to 6 month recovery before taking up a contract with Leeds in England.
One way it'll freshen me right up for an onslaught over there to go over there and play as well as I can.
Time for sport now with Alex Cullen, and a sad day for one of league's true gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right, Ian. Definitely not the way he wanted to leave the NRL. Coming up, teammates farewell Danny Buderus as his Knights career comes to an end. Greg Bird won't be selected for the Kangaroos World Cup campaign, with the Australian Rugby League supporting the Sharks' decision to ban him following his assault charge. Also unavailable for the tournament is Knights skipper Danny Buderus, whose NRL career ended in tears after tests confirmed a torn bicep.
Wife Chris has been his rock, but Danny Buderus hasn't been short of shoulders to cry on.
Thanks, boys.
All the Knights were on hand to hear their skipper confirm he's played his last game for the club.
I've lived every boy's dream, I guess, to play, but definitely didn't get the fairy tale.
Buderus will play on with Leeds after undergoing surgery on a torn bicep.
Hopefully they can do 2 at once and get my knee done as well.
The injury to Danny Buderus and the Greg Bird situation at the Sharks show just how easily things can still change for clubs in the race for this year's premiership title.
These are things you've got to deal with all the time, and you just got to be able to, as a group, you just got to be able to move on. You got to be tougher than that.